During the lockdown, three very posh sisters decided to order some designer face masks, you see. And the three sisters were Felicity, Penelope, and Fanny. So anyway, the day arrived when they was due to pick them up from the designer house, and they went along to this very posh place. But unfortunately, Fanny couldn't make it, so it was only the two other sisters that were there. And when they went in, the rather pretentious chap came out and said, "Oh, just one moment, ladies, I'll just go and pick them up, for you." So he went behind the scenes and said, "Oi, Bert, you got those cheapo masks from China? Yeah, that's smashing." And he came back, he said, "Here we are, I've got the two masks for you." She said, "Two masks?" She said, one of the sisters. She said, "But what about our Fannies?" He said, "Oh," he said, "a pair of thick knickers should be okay."
Good evening and welcome to the show. And tonight we have Ben, who's not as weird as me. And of course, we've got High Strangeness as well.
I'm the normal one in the middle without the cowl and the weird lighting.
Where's my bleeding lamp? I can't touch my lamp. Oh,
But I've got a nice background. You see, look, I've got a background. I've got a suitable background. Yes, appropriate.
So, this week I've got to wear headphones because I've had a very serious ticking off from the sound man, who's Paul English, and well, he's polite anyway. He said sound is like water, and I got to wear the headphones because what's happening? I was getting feedback on my speakers, and welcome to everybody on YouTube and also Soapbox Radio because I'm live on there, and we've got 2 hours on Soapbox Radio. So when we sign off we'll have to sign off at Soapbox Radio at 10 o'clock, and then we can carry on after that if we want to, on YouTube. So welcome everybody on YouTube and everybody on Soapbox Radio. And excuse me, I've got to take this bloody thing off because it's boiling hot.
Yeah, this is the problem with this as well. I'm gonna. There we go.
Hang on, wait, what's that? Oh, bloody hell!
Oh,
it's frightening, isn't it? But did you know that Nathan? I was telling a lady, my neighbour, that Nathan and I are going to join a male witches coven, and she said warlock. So I said, no, it's true. That's got rid of the rest of our audience now, hasn't it?
Well, we did say we're going to make it creepy tonight, right? So.
Well, I'm naturally creepy most of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, please excuse me whilst hang on, you're coming through A-OK on Soapbox. Way!
yeah, hello, Soapbox. That's a good name, that is, Soapbox. It fits us perfectly, doesn't it?
Oh, the bloody phone's going like whoopee here. So anyway, excuse me whilst I do a striptease act because this thing's boiling hot to wear.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it does look like a monk's outfit. I mean, you've got the haunted monk going down for it. It's brilliantly there.
Yeah. It is. It's the right colour and it's the sort of hood and everything. Yeah, it's just like definitely.
I got it off as a special offer thing, and it's wool. It's really warm, but the trouble is, excuse my language, everybody takes the pee. They say, "You joining a monastery or something?" No. Anyway,
what is it? Wishful thinking.
Yeah, they want to get me away somewhere, I think, but might as well be a bleeding monk,
Well, there is that. I mean, it's 2024. I mean, men are pretty much out of options at this point, aren't we? Let's face it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not easy to we're not really programmed to form couples, are we? I mean, it's I know lots of men, I mean lots of women as well, who say, why am I single? Why can't I find myself a partner? I can't seem to get one. When I do get one, they don't hang around very long and they're gone. You find they'll make up some reason like you've done something wrong and then it'll just go.
So, I mean, I expect you're both familiar with the whole red pill manosphere MGTOW movement. Yeah, I mean,
the MGTOWs are like at the extreme end of it. Yeah, and they're very depressing, very bitter they have such this dark, cynical, misanthropic vision of women that I just can't bet. They're so depressing to listen to. But generally speaking, I mean, it says it all here in this little mug I've got, which was given to me by a friend of mine. There was actually a woman who gave me this mug because I was round her house one day and she's given one to her husband, and I said, well, I'd like one too. And well, I think I was drinking out of it, and she said, "Oh, you should get one of those." I said, "Okay." Next thing I know, there's one arrived in the post. She bought me one.
Nice. I mean, I'd say I love the sentiment, but I'd have to make, clearly I have to put a caveat in there and say, all opinions belong to someone else, and I take no responsibility for my own words. There you go.
All right. Yeah. And besides, feminist tears are not very nice because I mean, pure vinegar is actually quite a disgusting thing to drink.
Well, that's us. Well, good. Yeah. Well,
we are sorry. So Chris is trying to butt in. Are you trying to?
No,
I'm
rudely trutting. I'm terribly sorry.
No.
So what I was going to say is, I think that Nathan and we're very good at meeting girls that are from the local psychiatric hospital or the sort of clinical psychopath ward or something.
Yeah, usually I'm on the bloody drugs though.
So I got this. I got this thing. I call beep 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 beep. I call it a naturometer. So I go into a room. There's 99 normal females and one loony, and the loony will go beep beep beep. Oh no! Straight up. Hello. I've got a nuclear bomb in my purse.
You've got to watch out for the staff. Actually, I tell you what, like it was always a bit of a joke at my hospital. I worked at like general hospital, general clinical centre when I was a hospital porter. And we used to joke about psychiatric nurses and psychiatrists was, well, if you work in a paint shop, you get splattered. In other words, you end up as crazy as your patients if you're in psychiatric nursing or psychiatry. Mind you, I would say that a lot of it you don't have to. I think midwifery and several other professions are just as bad.
Yes. But anyway, tonight the Blue Peter badge goes to Paul Green, who was on at 6:27 p.m. and he says, "Hi, hope everyone is well. Enjoyed." Hang on, I missed that. Deb Singleton's show last night, worth a watch.
Yeah, somebody mentioned it on the Rumble chat that she'd uploaded a video to YouTube.
Admire Paul's dedication anyway. Hi, Paul.
Yes, and it says Stephen Truthseeker says, "Hello, lounge lizards."
Stephen, this isn't the royal family.
Just the imitation royals. We wouldn't mind their money, but we don't want their great house or
their cold blood and scales and things like that.
Yeah. But we're Fockham royalty, aren't we? I mean, you're His Royal Highness. I'm His Royal Highness, and I don't. What do you want to be?
I'll just be the sort of princeling who does nothing and sort of lays back and has no responsibilities. Be like Prince Harry. I'll be the Ben Sinister. I was fathered by the butler, that kind of person.
But equally,
I'm the beast of Fockham Hall.
Well, have you noticed though that Queen Victoria? She was, I think she was into plumbing because why is she always depicted with a ball cock in her hand? Have you noticed that? I mean, there must have been very bad plumbing in those days. And the other one is, I think she thought she was a table because if you notice, she's got looks like a sugar jar on her head, but it was sort of like a tablecloth. And I've noticed it seems to be carrying on because I noticed that Tony Blair. And the latest Prime Minister, what's his name? Keir Starmer. He's often seen with a beer mat on his head, so he thinks he's a bar in a pub. Strange, isn't it?
It's the only way he's ever going to get into a pub is by pretending to be a table, because he can kick out so many now. Starmer. I mean, the landlords just kick him out.
Well, he's so popular, isn't he? Really? I mean, he's doing a wonderful job. I think even the people that started off liking him now hate him. So
mind you, where's his wife? She hasn't been seen since September, has she? So
she's probably somewhere in. I checked the Downing Street garden. That's all I can say. That little mound of earth at the back. It's not for the roses.
Or there's plenty of body in these roses,
I mean, do you know what? You need a clip of Greta Thunberg, so that every time we accidentally on purpose offend somebody or hurt somebody's sensibilities, we need, how dare you? I can't do it properly, something like that.
How dare you?
You have stolen my childhood entitlements. And I can't be bothered. There you go.
She's what I call a tit warbler, because you got mock chews.
Yeah.
See, in my bullshit book, there's tit warblers. Tit warblers. They sort of go for you, a bit like a rock volley, but it's always in short bursts, like a machine gun, and then back again. And it's always deeply insulting. But so I call her the tit warbler, definitely.
Well, her background. I mean, she was like she's not just some conscientious youth who just suddenly decided to just make a stand. People got her down as some kind of folk hero, but she of heroine. But that's scene outside the town hall which made her famous to begin with. That was all orchestrated. Her parents are, I forgot what they were. I think they're like producers of the Eurovision Song Contest or something like that, which is not something they probably want to be too proud about. They probably don't have very good taste in music, but they have the right connections. So she was like brought in. Basically, they said, "Look, she's basically like an actress playing a role." And I mean, I don't want to be too hard on her because she's clearly like got the vapors in her head. I mean, she's clearly not mentally normal, and it makes it all the worse actually if they're taking advantage of her and they're using her and they're filling her head with all these doomsday scenarios. Because I remember what it's like to be a kid. I mean, I know she's not a kid anymore, but she was when she started out. And these sorts of things really freaked me out. Stories about the world dying, and then when I was a kid, it wasn't such a big thing. When I was a kid, it was like nuclear bombs, but this sort of thing, it's not like when you're an adult. I mean, these sort of things literally kept me awake at night and made me almost suicidal. And they filmed. And now she's been shown pictures of polar bears on melting ice floes, not being told that polar bears are very good swimmers and they don't need they're not going to drown. And these horrible other scenarios they're filling their head with, and they're saying, you go out there and just tell everyone we need this tyrannical world government or the planet is going to die. Will you do that for us, Greta? And I mean, if the worst happens to her, and I'm not going to spell it out, but if the worst happens to that girl, as far as I'm concerned, there's blood on the hands of the people who filled her head with that depressing, demoralizing nonsense and made her like a figurehead and a mascot for this movement towards global authoritarianism.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's so inverted and backwards. The whole I'm trying to choose my words carefully with it being YouTube, so I'm just going to call it the scam. I mean, it's literally they're doing the exact opposite of what they're claiming to do. Anyway, they don't care about sustainability and saving the planet. If they did that, why are they going around chopping trees down? Because since when is chopping trees down good for the environment? Since when is radiation and chemicals in your food and water supply? And that's not good for the environment. We need wildlife, we need the forests and the green and the clean oceans, and yet they're doing everything in their power to make sure that we don't have that, whilst accusing us of being the ones responsible for taking the blame. So I mean, it looks like, to be honest, they're setting her up as some kind of first of all a spokesperson, but if it all goes sideways, you can guarantee she'll be the scapegoat instead.
Yeah, and they've got all the bases covered because, like, for example, I saw a newspaper talking about how they're saying the Atlantic conveyor has failed, and I thought, what's this? Is this something? Is this something you get at an airport when you put your luggage on it or something? But no, it's a massive current of warm water that comes from the Caribbean, and when it arrives at Europe, it makes the weather warmer, so we're not too cold. That's apparently failed. It's now shut down, which means it's now going to be very, very cold. And so, hang on, I thought they used to be called global warming. Then they call it climate change, and then if the winter coming is very, very warm, you know what it is? It's climate change. If the winter is coming very, very cold, you know what it is? It's climate change. Whatever weather we get in the next few months, they're going to attribute to our the demonic presence of humanity on this planet that needs to be curtailed and curbed, and we need to reduce our numbers, we need to reduce industry and things like that. We all need there has to be 500 million of us living in sustainable farms and things like that. Subsistence agriculture and nothing more.
I'm going to be careful what I say, but have you, Nathan or Ben, noticed? I think it was allegedly Dave mentioned on Facebook. he's noticing there's less people around. Now, I went out when was it? Tuesday. And I've never seen the shop so empty. And, I did a bit of shopping and they're deserted. I thought, it's a bit weird. Road driving was easy. Have you noticed there's less people sort of around? I don't know.
I haven't personally. I mean, maybe people are moving away from certain areas. Maybe that's it.
That's
I've
interesting.
certainly
I've got to be honest with you.
This is controversial, but I've noticed big demographic changes. Like when I take a coach, it tends to be more foreigners are using the coach. And I went to Manchester, which seems to be, most of the people are foreign. This doesn't include the people who I can't tell by looking. That is Eastern Europeans. So what I reckon that the native population in Manchester is significantly a minority now.
Yes. Yes,
that's not to attack those people. I've got nothing against those people. They've been brought in here deliberately by the government to serve a purpose. It's not their fault.
It's the principle that I'm against, not the people. Yeah. This is the thing. It's the agenda, and this is what gets me. And also the stereotyping of people. Was it all West Indians like twerking? No, they don't. What was it? And the other one is I think we're all white men, we're all supposed to be like sort of trying to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, aren't we? I don't know.
Really?
They always try to put you into a kind of stereotypical sort of group. You notice that it's always community.
Always trying to put your box or a label.
Always labeling you, and that was what really irritates me and a lot of other people.
It does. I mean, the worst one is, of course, if you're a white male, is the label they want to put you in is responsible for all the evil in the world, past, present, and future. Just
slavery as well.
Pretty privileged then. I mean, clearly, us three white privileged men are clearly toxic. Rich, definitely benefiting from everything going on. I mean,
I know. Well, where is this? I mean, where is this white privilege? Because I want in.
I want it as well.
Yeah, it's obviously happened to other white men, not to me. So I mean, I wish I want my luxury. So come on, guys, recruit me.
Can we term this white privilege discrimination then? I mean, this is.
No, man. I'm not getting the white privilege I deserve. You see.
Well, exactly right.
And I want reparations from Italy. Shall I tell you why? My ancestors were thrown to the lions by the Romans. And if a lion walked into this room now, I'd crap myself because I've got a fear of lions now. So I want compensation for that.
Yeah. See? Well, you see, the Italians want reparations for the Vandals, and of course, the Vandals were mostly Germans, so the Germans are going to have to pay Italy reparations.
That's right.
For destroying the Roman Empire. So it's.
What about a German? They destroyed their chip shops during the World War II. You couldn't go down the chippy, so we want reparations from them and all. So, they've already paid it, haven't they? But back to
tradition, mate. We need access to our traditions. I mean, because otherwise we can't be properly British without our fish and chippies. It's just not right.
That's right.
It's acceptable.
I mean, have you know? Has anyone? I mean, I know this is supposed to be about Halloween, but I mean, obviously it's not. I don't want to derail any conversations here, but we've kind of like got to a point where some people are saying we shouldn't have Halloween. Has anyone tried to tell you shouldn't have Halloween? It's mostly, it used to be religious people, but now it's like they're taking cultural appropriation from ancient Anglo-Saxons and Celts and people like that.
Well, we need Survival Steve on here to tell us about Halloween, and he's coming on soon. But the way I look at it, it's been, shall we say, it's been hyped up because when I was a kid at school, it was it's Halloween. Oh, so what? Big deal. No, it's just a note in your diary. Halloween. That was it. And you might get a few programs about ghosts, and that's about it on the television.
No, it seems to have taken over Christmas too. Well, not necessarily, because Christmas is just a commercial enterprise now. But in terms of, I mean, it's a big thing, whereas it wasn't even 10 years ago. Now people are going out and getting Halloween decorations and Halloween lights, and it's basically Christmas times too. But is this a sign of desperation? Are people that fed up of the mundane state of affairs in reality that they're looking for now any kind of excuse for an escapism? I mean, I've got no problem against Halloween as a holiday or as a an ancient pagan, celebration of the seasons change and things like that, I've got no problem with it. I quite like it, but it does seem. I mean, we know things go on. I'll leave it at that. But, we know that horrendous things go on. But again, horrendous things go on every single day of the year, especially in certain circles. And so that's not really an excuse for cancelling Halloween, is it?
No.
Or is it? I mean,
but
it's not.
It's a death cult, I believe, that we live under, because they're obsessed with death. I
Massively.
mean, look at the NHS. I mean, you look at anything. There's an obsession with death. I haven't said anything. I haven't set the klaxons off at YouTube HQ. But the thing is that what gets me is you go into and you look at. I went into. Excuse me, showing off, but I'm a bit snob. I went. One goes into the pound shop, doesn't one? To get ones, and there's all these toys for kids in there with skeletons, and I'm thinking, drizzly, because I mean, when I was a kid, it was Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Man.
To be honest.
But anyway, we've got Chris Gardner come on. Here he is.
Hello, Chris.
Evening, all greetings from Norfolk. I do hope
Chris.
you and your dear wife are jogging along okay. And by the way, I did notice before I came on air that you tried to phone me this afternoon, and I didn't return the call because I only noticed before coming on air. Oops.
Expedition.
Yes, I'm an ignorant git. And by the way, anybody that's emailed me and you haven't got an answer, it's because I'm a lazy sod. No, actually, I'll get an answer to you sooner or later. I've been a bit busy. We've got Aunt Sally. Hello, Aunt Sally.
Hey, Aunt Sally. Hello.
We've got Stig from New Zealand.
Hello.
No sheep jokes, please. No sheep jokes at all.
I'm a Welsh guy, so I'm used to those, mate. We have the same thing in our country. Yeah.
I see. So I just did know a joke about. No, I better not mention it. Evening, lads and lasses. Jojo Gizmo. Hello, Jojo Gizmo. And then we got Casbar. Evening, you handsome chaps.
Ooh.
Is that handsome one who's wearing the mask though? Right. Let's.
I'm the only one who's not had a mask on tonight, so she must mean me.
Well, my neighbour's dog finds my leg extremely handsome.
Oh dear. Actually, hello. I know.
Hello, actually, I've got 4 jars of malt pickled onions. I mean, really?
Oh,
my auntie.
Don't eat them all in one go.
Well, that could be. Yeah.
Let's put it this way.
Don't do that.
My auntie made pickled onions, and if you lit a match, I'll be as polite as possible behind you. You could take out half the street after eating a pickled onions. There we go. Yeah. Actually, it's pretty good because how many minutes are we? We're 23 minutes in, and I've refrained from a fart joke for 23 minutes. That's not bad, is it?
Yeah. That's an
Baby with a laser. Hi, folks. Now, Leviticus Shovit says most vinegar is in plastic bottles now. Yes, I noticed that. Yes, I've noticed vinegar's in plastic bottles. It should be in glass. Easy to make your own. What, vinegar? I like apple cider vinegar. And it's Stephen Truth. Tonight's show on the paranormal. Is it?
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
Spooky. I think anything goes at this point.
It's a paranormal. That's what we got to think. I mean, I saw one in the cage the other day, and they.
It depends what it says. I mean,
yes.
It starts saying weird things, and it may be channeling some parrot demon from the depths of the birdcage hell,
This is interesting. Can you make it by adding a drop of? Can you make it by adding a drop of Bragg's? That's apple cider vinegar to ordinary cider, and that's baby with a laser. I don't know. And by the way, talking about birds in a bird cage, we used to have a budgie. And we had Billy and Joey. And one of them, I think it was Joey, you're going to laugh at this. The sort of grit they had at the bottom. He was very clever, this bird. When anybody came in who you didn't really like, he used to, what cats do when they sort of, after they've had a poo, they sort of scratch all. He used to do this with his claws, and he used to flick all his crap and sand all over out the cage,
That's annoying, isn't it?
Very clever
how's the
bird.
one there? What do you give a sick parrot?
I don't know. What do you give a
Paracetamol.
sick parrot?
Yeah.
That was worth it. Worth it. All right. One more. This is Halloween themed. What do you call a heretical thigh bone?
A heretical thigh bone?
Heretical.
A heretical thigh bone.
What thigh bone?
A heretical thigh bone.
Heretical. Oh, that's right. No, don't know.
A blasphemer.
That's a clever one. That's a clever one.
The reaction, Ben. That's made my day.
Well, actually, you're a medical person, aren't you, Ben? So I better ask you. Is this particularly? And I went in to see Miles the other day, and I said, "Hang on, I've got ancestral diarrhea." He said, "What?" I said, "I've got genetic diarrhea." He said, "Genetic diarrhea?" He said, "No such thing." I said, "Yes, it is." And I said, "Look, it's in my genes."
I can't compete with this. I can't compete with these jokes.
Yeah, the scene's not scary, but the jokes are terrifying.
Right. And what was it? Haji says, I think a polar bear can swim something like 200 miles.
Exactly. Yes, correct. They are very.
I won't crack the polar bear joke, will I? Because I did it last night. Anybody didn't hear it last night? Do you know how to catch a polar bear? So, by the way, those of you that heard it last night, go make a cup of tea whilst I'm telling it. So, well, you drill a hole in the ice, and you put peas around the outside the hole, and when the polar bear comes for a pee, you kick it in the ice hole.
That gave me a chuckle yesterday. I like that. I like that.
Now, the BP oil disaster, this is Baby with a Laser, in the Gulf of Mexico a few years ago, was planned to switch off the Gulf Stream. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, because Ian R. Crane did a big study about this. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But
yes, I remember that.
Yeah, great man. I really miss him. But he spoke about how that whole thing was engineered, and this massive deep water oil rig was just like broken apart, and the oil came and they put poison on the water, and it destroyed a 500-year-old sustainable fishing industry in that area. All part of the war on terror, as he calls it, terror as in Earth.
Terror.
I mean, do they not realise the side effects and the consequences for, I mean, this is a natural dynamic of the Earth, really, isn't it? It's and if they're going to interfere with that, we don't know the long-term consequences of doing it. I mean, I suspect they might have, well, they probably don't even care, to be honest. Yeah.
Or either that, or they're doing it deliberately. I mean,
as
Baby said, plan to switch off the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is like it feeds the Atlantic conveyor, which is this massive current of water that supposedly keeps Europe warm. Some people say
from the south, so it's they're interfering with that.
But whatever,
and I can sorry,
no, you carry on, Chris. It's all right.
You sure? No, I'm sure that YouTube are going to shove underneath this things about the climate. I can almost guarantee that.
Oh, definitely. Well, you just mentioned it in this now. Just mentioned this now.
Well, the thing is, though, okay, let's for the YouTube algorithm, we're not denying climate change. We're just basically saying that it's being engineered deliberately and then blamed on the wrong people, perhaps. So I mean,
I'd be a bit worried if the climate didn't change. Because it has since the year dot, I think. But Hachi says gammon is the in word.
It is, yeah. It's an acceptable word to use for white people. Which is because
is it? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was something to do with bacon.
It is. It's also a racist term for white people, except it's never called racist. But that's what it is.
Oh, not when it's against white people. It's only racist when white people are doing it against anybody at all. So, well, I mean, I first heard the term gammon from Richie Allen because he used to eat, well, I don't know whether he still does, refer to himself as the big baldy gammon.
Yeah. So, we've got here, Stephen Truesy says, my comment disappeared. Well, sorry, mate, I didn't do anything to it. And I don't think
It's
anybody
a
here did
Halloween
anything
special
to it.
feature. We disappear it without any, it's a
Yeah.
mysterious feature. So,
I'm
The
sorry about that.
Illuminati did it, yeah.
It's bloody pukey tubey.
Or maybe it's just an effect of Halloween, yeah.
It's creeping in
actually,
here.
you know what? Before you go on, I noticed. So yesterday in the chat and Rumble, whenever I posted certain comments, it would mute the video. So I thought your stream had ended a couple of times. I'm thinking, oh, that's odd. Anyway, I refreshed the page and you were still on. I'm thinking, is Rumble muting me every time I make a comment that's, let's say, going against certain agendas? Yeah, so that's an
It's tricky because like, Rumble is a free speech platform, but it still has to comply with the law. This is why the government are currently trying to change the law to make it more, to try and force these users into like basically complying and fitting in. But I don't. It's the internet's bloody annoying. It really, really is. But on the subject of disappearing things, I mean, see there's according to the mythology. Well, according to the mythology, which is very ancient, Halloween is the time when the veils between our world and the spirit world thin, and so there's like some connection between the ghosts and the world of the ghosts and the spirits and things like that, and the physical world. This is why jack-o'-lanterns are there to protect you from demonic entities, because they kind of walk the earth during Halloween. And I don't know how, you see, like lots of things in our popular culture, a lot of it was created by by more recent fiction rather than by ancient mythologies. Like if you see these like posers in the United States dressing up like the traditional Red Indians Red Indian clothing, with that feathered headdress and things like that. A lot of that came from Hollywood. It wasn't actually how they used to dress, the Indians. There's also I can't actually say the word, but there's a certain secret society in parts of the United States which involves people dressing up in big white gowns and hoods and things.
Yeah,
they've got a reputation for
the Ghost Society.
Yeah, they're being very, very racist. And they carried out a few attacks and things like that. Well, that thing, the crucifix burning and the uniforms. It was created by a film by D.W. Griffiths called Birth of a Nation, a very old black and white movie, which is where that society actually, and the real people within that society decided to adopt what was seen on cinema screens. And so, Halloween is very similar. Halloween is pretty much the same. A lot of what we do in Halloween, it comes from horror movies rather than it being an ancient mythology. This doesn't mean there is no Halloween and it's all nonsense. I know there's people who try to discourage us from celebrating Halloween. You get like the Christian fundamentalists, but there's also like as I said, there's people in the truth movement, the people I call backslappers, who are just in it for their ego. They say, you don't know what's happening, man. Only I understand what's really going on, man.
Oh yeah, I met them.
Celebrate Halloween.
Yeah, full of
You're
them.
feeding the bad guys, man. You're joining in with all the ritual sacrifice and things like that. That's
by doing what exactly? Is it good?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but so by us not celebrating, talking about it, acknowledging it, whatever. So is that going to stop all the bad things from happening? Is that going to put it on hold?
Well, I'd like to say to these people, look, if you don't like what's going on in the elite circles, I don't like it either. But stop whinging about what other people do and just stop, because a lot of these people, these backslappers, they don't actually do much apart from whinge about other people. That's all they do, the backslappers. Yeah. And so I just tell them, say, well, if you don't like it, you do something. Like join us in trying to prevent the evils of this world, and stop whinging about somebody wearing a mask or going trick or treating or letting their child have a party or something like that. And of course it could be. There's good. You see, there's good as well as evil can come through portals. And there's angels as well as demons in this world, I believe.
Well, I think we should go into that, because again, it's the paranormal's always interested me, to the point where it's like, it's not. I get accused of being, quite dismissive. I'm not. I'm just skeptical, but that doesn't mean that I'm not open to it. And the idea of angels and demons, I mean, it's. I was listening to a podcast the other day, which basically said the origin of the angels. They originally started out as demons, not the other way around. Well, then a demon, the translation of demon doesn't mean what it means now. It just means a spirit, which is linked to the stars. So now all of a sudden we've got a spirit that's linked to the stars, the literal stars, that are taking form on the planet and kind of interfering with affairs, but not necessarily in a bad way. So history is getting twisted all the time, isn't it? Yeah, in that regard.
Have you ever seen the word demon spelled with the E is actually spelled AE instead of the E?
Demon.
Because that's what Anthony Peake spells it that way. He says he pronounces it daemon. Philip Pullman in his books. I mean, the guy himself is a complete dickhead, but I must admit his books are really brilliant, which is a shame, really, because I can't stand the man. He has the same word, and he pronounces it demon, and it refers to the souls of people which appear beside them in animal form in the universe of his particular literature. Anthony Peake uses it to refer to a part of our personality which is outside our conscious mind, in a sort of spiritual sense, rather than what he calls the eidolon, which is our conscious mind. But the daemon is above us, and it's like what the Egyptians called the Ba, the higher soul, and it can see the future, it can see your past lives, it knows where you're going in the future, and it can guide you. If you listen to it, it will occasionally intervene and guide you to better outcomes, and so you have a future life which is better than your past lives. It's very, very interesting. I mean, his book Cheating the Ferryman is absolutely fascinating, I find.
So yeah, I mean, Anthony Peake, he's got some very, very good I've got to call it philosophies, but it's not really. It's just kind of his research and his experience in the field of psychology and the subconscious and things like that. I mean, he's got some really fascinating stuff out there, and for anyone who's not interested, he's definitely worth delving into. I've not read his books, unfortunately.
He's very, very interesting, and does lots of lectures and things like that. You can find them on YouTube, and he's because he believes like we have it's not an eternal recurrence. I did ask him about this because I went along to his book launch last year. It's not an eternal recurrence of life. So you essentially you live the same life over and over and over with differences. You improving gradually. He compares it to the film Groundhog Day, which is a very interesting. If you've not seen that film, it's very, very good indeed.
It's a classic now.
It is a real classic, sort of like a comedy. But the character played by Bill Murray, Phil, his name is. He finds himself he finds himself living the same day over and over again. He goes to sleep at night and he wakes up and it's the morning of the day before. And eventually, as time goes on, he lives this day. Eventually, he ends up living a much, much better. He becomes a better person as a result of living the same day over and over again. And eventually he moves on to the next day. And I said to Anthony, I mean, we don't live the same life over and over again eternally. And he says, no, you live the experience you have now and multiple times until you can live the perfect life. You can be the best person you can in your particular incarnation. And then you have another one. Then you have another incarnation in a different form. Yeah. So
the only problem I've got with that, Ben, and again, this is not a dig at anyone in particular. Well, so I like his work. But what if, say, you're born severely disabled, or you're born disadvantaged or something like that? How would that take effect in that situation? Because to me, if somebody, a lad I used to knock around with, he said, "I'm that unlucky. If I was reincarnated, I'd come back as myself, right?" And I kind of I loved it because I thought, bloody hell, do you know
Anthony
what?
would love that joke. He would love that joke.
I mean, so let's, because I think reincarnation is certainly plausible, if not possible, if not probable. But for something like that, I mean, how would that be fair? I mean, if somebody's disadvantaged, or would you suggest that some kind of karmic effect has brought them back in that form? I mean, how would that work in general? I'm not.
Well, you see, I asked Anthony about the traditional view of reincarnation, which is which is believed in by many, many people, especially in India and places like that, where you have different lives, you come back as different people. And I said, well, which is correct? I mean, are these two things mutually exclusive? And he says no. He said that all he disagrees with, the only thing he disagrees with on the conventional model of reincarnation is it's just one, you get one go at a particular incarnation. That's the only thing he disagrees with. He says, no, you get more than one. You get as many as you need to live that perfect life. And it could be that this particular incarnation, you may be born disabled, you may be born and live and die very young. you may be born you may be born in one, you know, you may be born a particular person, you may be born a battery chick, you know, and which is horrible, because then you end up you either end up in McDonald's Happy Meals, or you go into a little cage and produce
that's
eggs.
chicken.
I mean, is that all you're going to have for your entire life? Just doing that, getting 5 minutes before you end up in the nugget, or go to some box with a cage and just laying eggs continuously. And he said, no, you don't. It's not. You don't just have to put up with that for eternity. You don't have to just put up with that for eternity. You just, you know, you could be a battery chicken that lives the best life it can as that battery chicken. Which again, this is not unlike the idea of karma. It's not. It's something you find very much in Hindu philosophy and in Buddhism. It's completely compatible with those. I mean, Jerry, what's his name? The guy who wrote Groundhog Day, Levin, is it Jerry Levin? I'll just look it up. But he was I think he believes in Buddhist. Sorry, I hate it when I can't think of a name.
That's all right,
but because Anthony's spoken to him, Danny Rubin.
Right.
Danny Rubin specifically was thinking in those terms when he came up with the idea for Groundhog Day. And because he's always been interested in Buddhism and things like that. He's from quite an Orthodox Jewish family, but he sort of like became. Oh, have I frozen? Hello. Yeah, I've frozen. But he sort of like became more interested in alternative ideas as he got older and older and grew up, and eventually I think he spent some time in a monastery in Tibet or somewhere like that, and then he eventually came. He's American, but he came back and he decided to write. And it's these two things are compatible. These two things fit together. I mean, it's and indeed, I've looked into other thinkers in this research, and I don't see any contradiction. I think there is like a narrative which all these ideas are converging on.
I mean, it's one of the oldest ideas of an afterlife. Well, I say afterlife. I mean, technically, it's a real life, you know. But I mean, it goes back to you know, as far back as ancient Egypt. You know, I mean, they used to have the idea of the soul, where it was the heart was measured against the purity of a white feather, and if the heart failed, then it committed 42 negative confessions. If it had trespassed, then it would have to come back and relive it again. And of course, then we get the tradition passed on to Hinduism. Even where God, the Brahma itself is reincarnated in different forms, and it does seem to be a persistent thing. I don't know whether I like the idea of it. I mean, to be fair, it terrifies me. The idea of coming back to somewhere like this terrifies me. I wouldn't want to do that, but again, just because I don't want it doesn't mean that's not what it is, you know.
Maybe this is one of the blessings of the River Styx, because the ferryman referred to in the title of the book is Charon. This is the strange hooded figure, which is very much like the Grim Reaper. Yeah, exactly, just like you. But he doesn't have a scythe, but instead he paddles a boat, which takes you across the River Styx to the land of Lethe. In ancient Greek mythology, this is, and during that period, you are cleansed of the memories of your past life, except at the level of the daemon, according to Anthony. And when you get to the other side, you then start afresh as new. Although, according to Anthony, you can, if you can think and find a way to contact your daemon will intervene and guide you at certain points. And it's a very interesting thing. But the idea of it's interesting because, like, the book "What Dreams May Come" is very good. Now, there's a famous film with Robin Williams, which is an adaptation. The original book is actually much more detailed. It's much more interesting because it actually states, this is touched on in the book, but this is touched on in the film, but in the book there's a different ending because the wife, the woman who starts the whole thing off, which leads to after the children are killed, and then she commits, and then her husband's killed, and she commits suicide. Despite the fact that she had all this pain in her life, the fact that she took her own life and she ended her own life deliberately means that then she has to reincarnate as somebody who then loses a child. And then the final scene of the film, it's actually an outtake from the original cut of the movie, shows her as a woman in India giving birth to a baby that dies, and this is because she killed herself. So because of the pain she caused others by killing herself, basically. That's
But again, but this fits as well with what Ike refers to, in what he's referring to as the dream, about these entities that are in the kind of the afterlife realm, or whatever you want to refer to it as, and that they're here to kind of trap souls into an endless cycle of coming back, so that they can feed off that particular energy. And it does seem to fit with that. And again, there's some good cases made here, whether it be ancient accounts, or whether people like Ike and Anthony Peake as well. It's plausible. So, but then you've got to ask the question: well, why is that there in the first place? Why is that construct there? What are those entities there for? I mean, is it? Are we being tortured? Are we being imprisoned? Are we being taught lessons? How can we prove that? And how the hell do we escape that?
Funnily enough, this is exactly. I mean, I remember, because I went to see David Icke live, and he appeared in Oxford a couple of weeks ago, and he said this, and I realised that this is actually not a new idea. Again, it's very old, and in fact, it was the basis of the mission of the Buddha. Because he understood this, the reincarnation cycle itself is a trap. He called it samsara, the illusion, the recurring illusion.
Isn't it?
And it's really very much like you get in the Matrix, because in the Matrix film, and indeed the Wachowski, they used to be the Wachowski brothers. I don't know what they are now. The Wachowski non-binaries. They're very into this sort of thing as well, into these spiritual ideas. And there's this amazing scene in I can't remember if it's the second or the third movie, where Neo, he meets the architect of the Matrix, and he's told this amazing story about how he didn't escape the Matrix when he took the red pill. He just moved into a different part of it. And the real trick is that because the resistance, the people who resist the main characters in the first movie, they're just acting out their own role within the entire system.
Do you know what? It's sorry to go off kilter with this, but I thought they were going to take that direction in the fourth one. I thought they were going to basically, because for anyone who's not watched it, spoiler.
So I don't intend to watch it.
No, okay, well,
go ahead.
But when he dies at the end of the film, I thought when he announced the fourth one, I thought they were going to, when he died, he was coming out of that matrix, because obviously towards the end of the film, it shows that he was able to affect things with his mind in the so-called real world. And then so I thought, well, it would be interesting to bring him out of a matrix within a matrix.
But we can affect things with our mind in this world. I'm positive we can, because if you get up and you say you're going to have a crap day, you will have one. But if you say you're going to get up and you think I'm going to have a wonderful day, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. It will be. And I think that
I'm going to deviate from that, just because I've noticed this and I've paid attention to this, because obviously I've looked into the manifestation and the stuff like this. But I've noticed some days you get up and it's like, it doesn't matter what you do. And sorry for the swearing, shit just happens, right? I mean, it just literally, it's like, oh, great, it's going to be one of those. So you might wake up and for all intents and purposes, you're just waking up and and suddenly you drop your phone or something. It's like, oh, that's great. And then you turn around and you knock your glass off the table and it's like, oh, it's going to be one of them. But then again, it could be a case of, is that psychosomatic? Are we in a negative frame of mind because of a negative dream, a bad dream? And we've woken up not realizing that we're in a negative state. And of course, we're bringing that negativity into it,
yes,
which is affecting the rest of our day. So I mean, it could go either way, really. I mean, it's certainly fascinating to look into.
And also, I mean, I don't think we have complete. I do believe that you do manifest things. However, it's not like you are a total creator of your own universe. There are other conscious beings around you that can make decisions too, and those can affect you. I mean, the only thing that is certain, that if you, as a conscious being, I think you are the main driver of your own life. You're the central figure in your own life, of course. Therefore, your own attitude is going to have the biggest influence. It doesn't preclude other people's influences. I mean, you could be just unlucky, walking down the street, you pass someone who's having a bad day, you trip them over, and then they get really arsey with you. And I mean, even if whatever you're manifesting, whatever mood you're in, that could happen. But at the same time, if you are the one who's having a bad day and you go around looking for people to have a go at for any reason at all, then you are definitely going to have a bad day. Definitely. And no amount of nice people around you influencing you is going to change that. So I think the manifestation thing is about 3/4 true, but not 100%. So if you wake up and think, I'm going to have a wonderful day, I'm taking this time to create my day, the Joe Dispenza line, and then you go out and then you go out and you step into some mud and you fall flat on your face and you break your mobile phone or whatever. All right, it's tempting to go, oh no, why did I manifest that? I must be a really bad person. Don't think that. All right, don't think that. It's just bad luck. So you're not to blame for that.
Been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Or being in the right place at the right time.
These things happen. If a big lump of rock like falls off the top of a cliff and there's onto a busy street, someone's going to be underneath it, and it may not be your. If it hits you, that's not necessarily your fault.
There was an advert for watches years ago, and it's fantastic. And it was a chap who met the lady of his dreams because he had, I can't remember the make of the watch. That's how good the advert was. Because he had this watch, and if he was 3 seconds earlier or later, you'd have missed her. But he just met her at the right time. And there's certain things like that, and things occur. I've often wondered if people reincarnate. Can they, for example, if they're really evil, do they reincarnate as a piece of dog poo?
It's not sentient, though, is it?
I can name a few people who deserve that, definitely.
Well, there's something, I don't know what it is, but I mean, I've got a bird table, and it must have been a duck or a swan. Oh, no, don't get swans over it, but it must have been a big bird because it wasn't a fox or anything like that. And there's this great big lump of sort of poo, and I stood straight in it this afternoon.
Oh, dear.
And I thought, I wonder if that is the reincarnation of somebody horrible. I mean, that could have been sort of someone from the past who was a Caligula or something, Perhaps he keeps reincarnating, as some dog poo, duck poo, or something like that. Who knows, But that's the way he wanted to go, I suppose. Oh,
I would make the argument there that if you're going to get reincarnated, you'd have to be sentient. I mean, obviously, poo comes from the process of you were something living, whether that be a plant or an animal, and so essentially we're all kind of compost in some way, shape, or form, really, if you look at it from that perspective. But Ben, you in the questionnaire that I sent you come up with a massively the reply was brilliant about karma, and you said that karma's not for other people, it's for you. I can't remember the exact way you phrased it, but I've actually put a comment next to it that said that's brilliant. I've never heard it put quite like that.
I'm glad I did. I'm glad I came up with something really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I suppose it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose a lot of people think, well, they think about, and I've been in this position. Oh, this person was really horrible to me at this particular time in their life, and things like that. But nothing bad ever happens to them, does it? Only, there's no karma. And my reply to that was, maybe it is, but you don't see it. Maybe something bad is happening to them. I mean, because presumably, if it's someone bad, they're out of your life now. You've got rid of them. I hope. You've got them out of your life. And indeed, in the case of the individuals that first spring to mind, they certainly are no longer a part of my life. How do I know that bad things aren't happening to them? Because if it is, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily see it, because karma is not there for your satisfaction. It's not there for you. It's not there for you to vindicate you.
It's not a gift for you. Well, it is a gift, but not necessarily one that you'll enjoy or get gratification from. Right?
It's for their benefit, not for yours. So you may think, well, I'd like to see that person suffer for what they did to me. And the answer is, well, if they are, we may not show it to you. It's maybe not for you to see it.
Yeah, but they probably are suffering.
They may well be, but it's not. Unfortunately, not for you. You may want the satisfaction of seeing that, but you may not necessarily get the chance.
Well,
I mean, you do get the chance sometimes. I can think of someone in particular, actually, who did, receive. I did actually witness the bad thing that happened to them as a result of their actions against me. But it's quite rare in that case. It's quite a rare thing. And I think you just. how do you get rid of how you get rid of bitterness from your past? I don't know. How do you heal yourself of bad feelings towards other people in your past? I don't know, because I'm thinking about people. These are close members of my family in some cases. How do I
Well, I'm in a
heal
similar
myself? What they did.
situation. It takes a long time.
Some of them
You
are
never
dead.
really get
I
healed.
can't get my own back on them because they're dead.
But do you want to get your own back? You see, the thing is, we don't go around being horrible to people for the sake of being horrible. And but what we was talking about before we came on air about that character who is nothing but trouble. Now, when in hindsight, looking back, that person is troubled. He's not a happy person. And in hindsight,
I don't know many people that are genuinely happy, to be honest, mate.
No, but he did me a favour. This character, by being horrible to me, he did me a favour. So
I know the person you're talking about, Chris, because we discussed this a few years ago.
We won't go into it, but they did me a favour. And quite honestly, that person is suffering, I think, because it's not normal to be want to create trouble.
Without conscience.
It's not normal to do that. Yeah. I mean, there's always been the gossipers and the troublemakers, but I've noticed they generally accuse others of what they do themselves.
Yeah.
This is what this character
is.
It's accuses others of what they project. But the thing is, as I say, they did me a great favour. And I always think sometimes your greatest enemy can sometimes be your greatest friend. Well, there's a joke that sums this up. Here we go. He's got another one now. See, a little bird was all tired and cold, and it's chucking it down with rain, almost died, almost on his last. And suddenly a fox comes along, and he took pity on this little bird. He picked the bird up in his paw and slapped it in some nice warm pile of cow dung, you see. And the warmth was warming it up, and the bird was getting all lively. He starts singing. And then another fox came along and ate him. And the moral of the story is people that put you in the shit are not always doing a bad thing. And once you're in the shit, keep your mouth shut.
Chris, your jokes are getting better, mate. Mine are getting worse.
But really, when you think about it, sometimes your greatest enemies can be your greatest friends. Because another thing,
your greatest teachers, aren't they?
Give you wisdom.
Your teacher, teacher is the word, I think, rather than friend, Nathan. So, but it was Ian R. Crane actually who said that. Who said, sometimes the greatest gift a person can give you for the development of your soul is to be your enemy. And I sometimes think to myself, well, what would my life be like if some of these antagonists had not been there? Well, my books wouldn't have been half as good. Oh, by the way, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, £10 at all good bookshops now. That's my plug out the way.
I like the way you did that. That was nice and subtle.
What about if you go into a bad bookshop? They say, I'm sorry, we're a bad bookshop, we can't sell it?
Never shop there again if they're not stocking it.
No. What is it available on Amazon and that?
Yes, it hasn't been banned yet from there. But
yes. So it's by Ben Evelyn Jones.
Yeah, that's right. Yes,
you get it on. Was it all good bookshops? You can get it from, and also now there it is, right? And
I need the second one of that. I need the second part.
Oh,
I've got part 1 and part 3, so I'll send you some
email address or something I can whiz along the bottom so we can plug it even better.
I'll get one for you. I'll get the link for you in a minute. But
okay,
my point, I suppose, would be that we know what that book is. Yeah,
thank you.
But
I wasn't going to say that. I didn't want to steal Ben's thunder there, so you plug your books, mate.
It's all right. It's all right, mate. I was going to say that. What would happen? I mean, because there's some of the elements of my stories that I've written, my fiction, are very much based on experiences. There's individuals. Some of the bad guys in my stories are based on real people. I won't say which people they are or which characters, because otherwise I would immediately be sued. But there are several people. There are individuals who are very closely based on these bad people and what they do, and that has enhanced the quality of my story, my fiction, I believe. And I think the idea of the great artist being a tortured soul, I think is very true. And the more they're tortured, the greater their artworks. I mean, a perfect example, a very famous example, is Vincent van Gogh, famous Dutch painter, who was in a mental sense, in terms of his mental health, he was in a very, very bad place. Of course, he shot himself. Very famously, he died by his own hand. He shot himself. But he produced some of the most acclaimed artwork the world has ever seen. He was never famous in his own lifetime. He only became recognized after his death. This is why there's that scene in one of the Doctor Who episodes where they bring him forward into the present day and they show him his gallery in Paris and he's really happy. It's the idea of the tortured soul being a great artist is absolutely correct. And if you take, as horrible as that is, these negative experiences, if you take them out of your life, you may look at your own life and remove those negative experiences, and you wouldn't be half the man you are right now.
Correct.
You really wouldn't.
Gives you wisdom.
So,
that's the thing.
Yeah, I try to think about that whenever I'm feeling bitter or angry or regretful or things are rankling from the old days. I try to remember that. I mean, my gas banner show. I wouldn't be doing my gas banner show if it hadn't been for some of the horrible people I met at the hospital, some of the psychopaths and people like that I had to serve with. That the gas banner show. Well, it would. I may do it, but it wouldn't be half as good. And my fictional work would not be half as good.
No, I think we're all agreeing on this one. I mean, it's sorry to interrupt there, mate. It's
carry on.
For my book as well. I mean, I've used in some cases I put several people together in one archetype to kind of get a point across. And I'm thinking, well, I don't hate these people. In some cases, I'm just using it as an example. But there has been some bloody traumatic experiences, which if you look back and you think, well, that didn't just have an impact on me, it completely changed me. But because of that negative impact, which led me into other negative situations, then the amount of knowledge that you can gain from, I'm not saying it was good or enjoyable, it wasn't. I've had some horrible times in life, more so than good, but it does tend to point you to wisdom. I'm not going to say it makes you wise, because that wouldn't be a correct statement. I don't think I am wise. I think I'm wiser. But it certainly is it is a teacher, and so yeah, I agree with you, Ben, mate. It's as tough as these people can be, these characters from your history. They can often do you some great justice by doing you an injustice, and so is that as opposed to karma, is that almost like dharma that appears to be bad karma? Is that it's turning a negative into a positive kind of thing.
There's the film Cloud Atlas is probably my favorite movie, actually, and it's based on a book about, and it's basically it's a really good film if you've not seen it, about a group of
I've seen it. I just couldn't get into it.
You can well, it's not everyone's taste, but
I know what you're on about.
It's about a reincarnation, about people who return. It covers a period of 500 years. It starts in the past, moves into the present, eventually into the future, and they keep coming back. What's interesting is they're not the same characters every time, and they're also they're not only the same characters. Some of the good guys in some lifetimes are really bad guys in another, and vice versa. It's a really weird thing, and it's almost like they're playing a certain role when they're in their interactions with the other characters, which might be superficially negative, but it turns out that it's an important role in the development of that particular person. It's so. I'm sorry you couldn't get into it. It's not to everyone's taste.
No, do you know what? I mean, I'm happy to watch it. I didn't hate it. I think so, because some of their accents in the future scenes, they were a bit weird. And it kind of put me off a little bit. So I think that's what put me off the film as a whole. I mean, I like the concept of it. Wasn't it the Wachowski brothers that did that? Sorry,
yeah,
Wachowski
it was.
sisters.
It was, yeah. It's
yeah.
And it was. I know what you mean, because in the most distant future scenario, they speak in the strange dialect.
Yeah.
And it takes a bit getting used to, which was invented by the author of the original books. They speak in the strange dialect, which I always put the subtitles on when it's there, because it's a bit easier to follow it when you're actually reading the subtitles. But it's a non-existent. It's a completely constructed dialect. It doesn't exist. No one speaks like that, really.
It's probably like a logical progression by the writers. They probably thought, well, how is that going to evolve into a different, So I'll watch it again. I mean, it could just be that I was having an off day and I couldn't get into it because I was tired. I don't. I'll watch it again. And
It's quite a long film. It's actually it's got it's the highest budget independent film ever made, apparently. And it was almost cancelled at one point because they almost went bankrupt. But
what's the name of the film again? Sorry,
Cloud Atlas.
Is it very old, or is it?
No, it's about 10 years old. I think it's about 10 years old, something like that.
That's interesting. Because I'll tell you something that's got me with bad experiences, negative experiences. A perfect example is, look at World War II, the 101st Airborne Division. They were put in the absolute worst situations ever. They always had the crap end of the deal. They were surrounded by the enemy, but they became a crack group because they'd had that experience. It's like when you contract, you get all the crap projects you could ever wish to think of, but it makes you good.
It's
and after
adversity.
A while, that's right. And comedy comes from adversity. I mean,
the benefits.
For example, my grandfather, the one that died before I was born, he always advised my father, trust no one until they prove their sort of trust to you. And I used to be, up to about 2 years ago, very trusting. And I learned a lesson not to be. And
so this is the number one rule, isn't it? Really, it's trust no one. And when you break your number one rule, I've got to say for that as well, shit happens. Which it seems to be consistent as well.
And I think that and also I've got a lot of sympathy for innocent people. I mean, I cracked a gag last week's show about Lord Montagu. Now, Lord Montagu in 1954 or 3, he actually was accused of having sex with a 14-year-old Boy Scout. And to the day he died, he said he was innocent. I believe him. I think he was innocent. And people lied out their back teeth and dragged his name through the mud. And he served, I think it's 18 months jail or something like that. But I really do believe he's innocent, because if he was guilty, he'd have shut up about it and carried on his life without saying another word about it. But an innocent person will continue to protest their innocence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think he was innocent. I really do. And I think that when you look at for example, our childhoods. Now, I've got a funny feeling, a strange feeling, that Ben has probably had a very similar childhood in a different sort of way. We all had a different childhood, but it was tough. It wasn't easy, but it hardened you up for things later in life. Like, for example, if someone stands and starts giving me a dressing down, I have I wouldn't say out of body experience, but it doesn't bother me because I had all that when I was a kid. So I'm sort of trained in it in a way. So somebody can be really shouting and all this, and I just sort of stand there and sort of look around, and just think practically, but not get upset by it at that stage. Afterwards, I might be, but not at that stage. I'll be very calm. It's because I went through it when you're younger, and different things like this. And I think we can look at things on a negative way, but what you went through in your childhood, Nathan and Ben and myself, it's sort of given us a kind of, it's been useful. I've found the negativity has been useful. It sounds weird, but it has been useful.
But I mean, I like your saying, mate, which is that a calm sea never made a great sailor, and I mean that's effectively what we're dealing with here, and it resonates massively. It's a good way of doing it. So,
it could be that if we did live a perfect life, we would just stand still. We would remain in a stasis and never actually achieve anything or progress in any way, according to the ideas of the spiritual side of life. I mean, it could be that we would maybe we have these we have this adversity for a reason. A time could come when we look back at our lives and think, well, maybe it's just as well that happened.
I'll add a little bit more credence to this as well, because without going into it, because it was traumatic in itself. But last Christmas, I made a stupid mistake, and I should have thought it through a bit. But anyway, I made a stupid mistake, and it massively impacted me. I mean, it put me in a really bad state. Yeah, you remember, because I think you were one of the first people I came to for advice. I thought, oh shit, I've messed up here. But it's because of that mistake that caused me to sit down in front of this machine here and start typing, because I thought I've got to write this out of me. Why did I do such a stupid thing? I mean, I didn't break any laws. It was nothing illegal, nothing. It was just foolish. But so anyway, I thought, right, I'm going to write this out of me. And then before I knew it, there was a chapter there. And I thought, oh, where's this going? And then I thought, oh, I'm going to just see where it goes, because I've been yapping on about writing a book, but for a long story. But basically, I lost my laptop and I lost the book that went with it. So I kind of put it on hold. But so then I started writing it. I just thought, oh, right, let's see where this goes. And now, because of that negative experience, I've got that. And
very good.
So what you're saying effectively, I mean, again, maybe it doesn't work that way. Maybe it's a coincidence, but it certainly seems to have a lot of credibility to support it. That
Miles
makes it stronger, and
Miles is getting into it, and he said, he's really interested, and I'm been getting into it, but I'm a very, very, very slow reader. So please be patient.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Oh, well, I've got a couple more books I need to finish off, but I will get into it. Yeah, I will. I'll definitely.
Shall we show a quick look in chat, because the chat.
I'm going to take the robes off. I'm bloody sweltering here.
Well, I had to with mine, and here we go. We got here. Now we was talking about something earlier, and I can't work out what it was, but Stig said it's creeping in here. Can't be bothered with it. I think it's wokeism or something. I think we was talking about.
We discussed several subjects, didn't we?
Yeah. Stephen Trueseeker said it's still Bill and Ben, the flower pot Ben, for you, Chris.
Well, Nathan has to be Bill then, doesn't he?
Yeah. My uncle, who's a comedian, used to take off Bill and Ben, the flower pot men, better than the bloke did it on the show. It sounded, if you turned your back, you would think it was Bill and Ben, the flower pot men on television. Yeah, that's how good he was. Over the laser, it's all part of the systematic destruction we're talking about of Western culture. That's correct. The Codenho-Kalergi plan. All British traditions. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. It's YouTube, isn't it? Oh. All British traditions have been dumped one by one in favour of celebrating everyone else's.
Correct.
Yes, that's all part of ideological subversion.
And it's not because the bad guys, the elite, like everybody else. It's because it's to mess with our heads. It's to ruin our morals and demoralize us and confuse us.
I like other people's culture. I like culture, and I like people to keep their culture. I mean, imagine if they walk. I mean, if especially you went to South Africa to see the Zulus, all their spear dancers and things like that. And they said, we're now going to have some Scottish Highland jigs. And you say, well, hang on a minute. I could go just up the road to bleeding Scotland to see that. I didn't come all the way to South Africa to see that, did I? And that type of thing. But I mean, the people I've got the greatest respect for are the Kalahari Bushmen. I think they're absolutely incredible. They're thin, they're athletic. How they hunt to get their food and what they go through to get their food. They're supermen. I mean, they had a show where they had top athletes next to them, and these athletes bloody well collapsed. They just couldn't land it, couldn't hack it.
But they're used to the heat.
A lot of them actually end up in the Olympics because they're so good. A lot of the South African runners have like that background. But you know what? I mean, just imagine. I mean, we I swear, imagine if we had to get our food that way, because I swear a lot of people in this country, they think that food and vegetables actually grows in those little plastic tubs you get from Tesco's. I think they really literally think that's the case.
Mate, I have a nephew who, when he was, I think, about 21 years of age, he admitted to me that he thought the television was full of little people. I'm not being funny. I mean, it wasn't exactly the brightest brass. I said, you're joking, right? I said, you didn't really think that. And he thought that until he was like, 18, 19-year-old. And when he was 20, I said, so you really think there's little people in the television acting? Think, oh, yeah. So there you go.
Funny, isn't it? You know, we've got here. Haji said, need a license for a budgie. That's right.
Yeah.
We've all got to do a citizen's duty. If you've got a stuffed chicken or got one from the local supermarket, you know, you've got to register your chickens. And
so have I got to make 30 license applications for my chicken dippers then?
That's right. That's it. Yes. That's what people have been doing. Taking piss. And this is what we should do. Just keep taking a pee. Top tip. This is horrendous. Get folks. Glue 2 black kittens together to make a spider for Halloween.
Oh, you monster.
Be a horror story, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, as I said last night, why can't we, for Halloween, creep into the House of Commons or the House of, well, better the House of Lords, and put a whoopee cushion filled with gravy underneath each seat?
Dare I say I'd rather fill it with other gases, maybe.
Yes.
Be careful. Be careful with that one.
But was it stick with horrendous get fucked for more top tips? There we go. So
that's like one from Viz comic, isn't it?
That's right. Now it's just was it taxi drivers? Why don't you top tip, taxi drivers, why don't you use your indicators? Because now they know where the bloody hell you're going. Register this is Stephen Truthseeker, register your budgie with the DEFRA website along with your rubber chickens and chicken. That's right, yeah.
Oh, man.
And Mark Anthony, evening all, running a bit late tonight. Oh, lines for you. Note from parents. Please.
No, it's Halloween special, mate. So there's no lines. You've got to concoct a spell in your cauldron, and we'll test it out later and see if you're forgiven.
Now, She-Bear, Sarah. Oh, she's already heard my bleeding jokes from last night. She's probably thinking, "Oh, sorry, now he's not going on about that."
On repeat.
Yeah, I think she liked the polar bear joke. Anyway, She-Bear in the hall.
Hello, She-Bear.
Have we have some ghost stories?
We want a ghost story. We should have one, shouldn't we? Yeah. Does anyone think of one? Can anyone know a ghost story?
Live chat? Yes. Well, I do know. I've said this before. Again, time to make tea. This is a true story. It's not necessarily a ghost story. My sister, when she started work, she worked at a place where they made safes. You know, it's really interesting. And there's a girl who she was just about to go to lunch, and there's a girl with all these papers around her, and she's sorting something out. And I can't remember the exact details, but my sister got into conversation with her. And it turns out, now, please stop me if you've heard it before, and I know that I have said this before on a show. It turns out this girl, she was German origin. And in 1945, when the Russians were coming closer to Berlin, she lived in Berlin. And they could hear gunfire and, you know, in the distance. And they thought they were okay. And she had to run an errand for her mother. And this is a true story. She ran an errand for her mother. And the Russians had made a breakthrough. And when she got back to her house, it was just flattened. And she'd lost her father, I think, on the Russian front. So she had nobody. And luckily, there was a German unit that were retreating, and they took pity on her. And they said, "Look, come with us. We're going to actually surrender to the Americans." But they didn't surrender to the Americans. They surrendered to the British. And she ended up in a English. Come on, brain. No, she came back here, and where children don't have any parents, what they call them, orphanage. Sorry, see, I get senior moments. Anyway, on with the story. What happened is that throughout that, she's always thinking of Argentina. People said, "I've heard this before." All right, go make a cup of tea. And she said she's always thinking of Argentina. It's just, and she was so obsessed with it that she saved up her money. And I don't know whether she went by ship or plane or whatever. I just don't know. She went to Argentina. When she got to Argentina, she was in a hotel. She thought, "What the hell am I doing here? What did I want to come here for?" So she went outside the hotel, and there's these beautiful raised fish ponds and seats around there. And she sat on the seat and she put her head on her hands and she thought, "What the hell am I doing here? I know nobody here." And a woman came and sat next to her. She looked round, it was her mother.
Wow.
And
That's
she was
like
filling up the papers to get her mother to England.
Isn't that incredible?
It's
That's
a
like
true story. It's
mm,
incredible.
That's like a kind of telepathic connection.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like someone's sending messages to go and that's amazing, Chris. That's amazing. Yeah.
And what about the Titanic cat? Do you hear about that one? You know the ship, the Titanic?
Mm.
Well, there was a cat on board.
On the Olympic.
There's a
And
cat
yeah,
on the Titanic. All right.
there was a cat on the Titanic. And what happened? The last docking it had before it went on the voyage to America. I think it was in Ireland, wasn't it? Or was it Portsmouth? I can't remember. I don't
I mean,
know.
it was Ireland. It was Queenstown in the south
Yeah,
coast of
Queenstown.
Ireland. Yeah.
Anyway, wherever it was, I think it was a stoker that looked after this cat, and he used to get scraps of food from the kitchen for it. And it had a lovely area, and it had kittens next to the boilers, so it's nice and warm. It had to run round, you know. And this cat, one by one, took the kittens off the Titanic, and then it sat next to the dock. And the stoker thought, there's something a bit odd here. So he decided not to go, and it saved his life.
Wow. So the cat sensed that something bad was going to happen, and oh my god, because apparently some animals have that ability. You know, it's like before the Asian tsunami in 2006, apparently all the birds started flying inland, things like that, and the wildlife just buggered off before that happened. Yeah.
I mean, I suspect that they're picking up on the frequency changes, and you know, I mean, they'll still be attuned to it, whereas I think as humans generally aren't, are they? Really? It's
yeah.
I know when the machine's going to go wrong.
I've got one.
Yeah,
I've got a ghost story. All right. Now this is a real story that I heard from somebody. It's not. I didn't get this from a book or from a website or anything. Now, as I say, real. I don't know if it's real, but I mean, this was told to me when I was a child by a man who since died. And this story was told to him by one of the members of his family, either his father or grandfather or something like that. The story I can't remember all the details. It was a long, long time ago. But the story concerns a house. I don't know if this happened to Halloween or any other time, but it's a good Halloween story. So feel free to tell it to other people if you want. The person, his family member, was staying in an old house, in an old house or hotel somewhere in the countryside, very remote area. It used to be a monastery. This hotel used to be a monastery in before it became a hotel. And this man, I don't know if it was the experience of this person or they heard it secondhand, but somebody involved in that hotel was one day, they were on their own one evening in the library. There was a big library with books everywhere on these shelves. And a man walked in dressed as a monk. Just an ordinary looking man, but he had like the monk's habit on. And the man turned around and said, "Good evening," and the monk said, "Good evening." And he thought he didn't say anything because he just thought it was a bit strange that someone should be dressed like a monk in this house, and he did wonder, are they having some kind of pageant to do with the history of this particular building? Because he knew it used to be a monastery hundreds of years ago. You know, it was a monastery once, and the monk said, "Could you do me a favour, please?" And the man said, "Yeah." It says, "On the top shelf, just above that row of books there on that shelf, there, could you go and could you get these things down for me? Because the man must have, I mean, a lot of people who encounter ghosts report this, that they are somehow not in their normal frame of mind. Because in that situation, I said, well, why don't you do it yourself? Why do you need me to do that? But this man said, okay. So he got a ladder because it's like a big bookshelf. So he got on the step ladder, he went up and he found some very old looking, he found a folder, very old. And he brought it down. It's a very old looking folder with some very old pieces of paper inside. They might even have been parchments, really, really old. He brought it down. And then the monk pointed at an open fire because the only form of heating this building had, because it was so old, was an open fire, and it was burning. And he said, "Could you please throw that onto the fire and burn it?" And the man said, "Why? But these look really, really oh, these could be historically valuable. And he said, no, please just burn them. And he handed them to the monk, and he says, well, could you, what do you want these? And the monk took a step back and held up his hand and said, no, I don't want them. Could you please just burn them? So the man, again, obviously not in his normal state of mind, he threw them onto the fire and they burned. And the monk said, thank you very much. And then he walked off. He walked out the room through the door he'd come in. And the man never saw him again. And when he reported this story to the other people at the hotel, maybe the hotel owners or something like that, and he says, I met this guy monk. And he said, oh, you just saw the local ghost. We often encounter that man. He's a ghost. Did I tell you this hotel is haunted by a monk? He's one of the monks who used to be here. He used to live here during the centuries that it was a monastery. And they said, well, and he described this encounter, and the hotel owners were like really, really confused. He said, well, and the man said, well, what was in those papers? And he said, we don't know. And the truth of it, nobody actually knows what was in the papers that the monk asked him to burn. These very old papers in this very old folder. But isn't that strange? Because I'm sorry, it's a bit of a Shaggy Dog story, because at some point in people saying, well, we're going to find out what was in those papers. But no one ever found out what was in those papers. But it's pretty clear this spirit desperately wanted some evidence or some information to be destroyed, so that no one would know it. And I wonder what that was. It was in this folder, sitting on top of some bookshelves, very old folder among the dust and the spider webs. And that's quite a spooky story. Again, I don't know if it's true, but it was reported to me as a true story years ago.
That's interesting, because
I've got to take a break, guys. Back in a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I actually, again, I've said this before on a program. I actually saw a ghost where I used to work, and it was it was a very beautiful place. It was on the outskirts of Potter's Bar. And it was years ago. It was a children's hospital, and I'm going back to the Victorian and Edwardian times. And then during the First World War, it was a kind of convalescence hospital for the wounded from the First World War. And then it fell into disrepair, and some architects bought it in 1971, and they did it up, turned it into offices, and you could still smell that sort of hospital smell occasionally if the conditions were right. But it's a beautiful place because you looked out over fields, and it was, when you first worked there, you're just looking out over fields, and it's quite nice because it was just not that far from where I live. It was great. Anyway, on with the story. I was working there, and what I was going to say is it never gave me bad vibes. I always felt good there. It's a really nice place, so it didn't freak me out working late. If I had a lot of work to do, I was doing overtime.
Yeah.
It's freelance here, so you pay by the hour, so you don't get any extra for working late. But anyway, it was a winter's evening. I was working late, and we had like a central corridor, and you had offices coming off of it. You see, and I was working away like that, and I just had my board lamp on over my board, and I looked in the corner of my eye, and there's a little boy standing there, Edwardian gear with little breeches and that.
Yeah, you mentioned this.
I mentioned, yeah, and I thought, one of the architects is fancy dressed or something. So I turned around and said, hello. And he disappeared. Where the bloody hell did he go? And I had a word with the caretaker the next day, and he said, oh, yes, I often see him. He said, he's inquisitive. He said, no, I turn around, speak to him, and he just goes. He said, I might be washing a lavvy out or something. He'd be he said, he's always round here. He said, I just get used to him. But there's a very strange place because I was working on a project that was quite pressurized. And I didn't get on with one of the people there, let's put it that way. And that was making it more pressurized. But luckily I moved on to another project, so I didn't work with this person again, And I went into the loo and I was really stressed out. And I used to get rashes on my head. I looked like Gorbachev, with great red patches. And something, I don't know what it was, massaged my back. And when I came back to the office, I said, my God, you look relaxed, Chris. And I went, yeah. Didn't say anything about it, but it was really weird. I could actually feel something, entity, massaging my back. I really don't know. It could have been a nurse. I hope it was. And
Thinking that.
hello, come out of an Edwardian nurse. I just do not know, but something did massage my back. And I was also, hey man, I'm really freaked out. Yeah, I think somebody said somebody put something in your tea or something. You've been eating the magic mushrooms. I was also like, hey, you know, oh yeah.
I mean, it sounds quite disconcerting. I mean, even though it wasn't evil or anything like that, I mean, it just, I mean, it must mess with the mind too. I mean, again, I've had experiences. I can go into one or two here, but it's.
I wasn't touched up. But I mean, it's just all.
So what did happen to you? I mean, were you fully, you know, you weren't
Pretty
under,
prompt.
you weren't
Oh no,
sleepy or
because I was working on this project, so I was thinking about designs and things like that. Because, you know, my job was to. It's all right. The architect does the main building, but then you have the technicians. You have to put the components together and make it all work. So you have to sort of think in 3D. So you're miles away most of the time, thinking in 3D, trying to, you know, get things to fit.
Mapping things out.
Yeah. And so I was miles away, and I was stressed right out. And I went into the loo, and I came out. There was a men's loo one side, ladies' loo the other side, and sort of like a kitchen into the corridor between the two loos, and yeah, sort of quite nice, you know. So, yes, this tea smells nice, doesn't it? Yes, smells like shit. This tea bag, you know. But anyway, and so I went up, went for a pee, and came back, you know, with a cup of tea in my hand. And as I say, they noted, and I think it was as I was making the tea. I'm not sure. I think it was as I was making the tea. There's getting this massage. It was really weird. It was very strange, and I'd never forgotten it. It's very odd, but again, it was good vibes. And strangely enough, I passed that building a couple of weeks ago. And there's these great big high, you know, when they do on building sites now, they put great hoarding up. It's all hoarding around it now. Can't see it. So I don't know what the architects have gone, and don't know what's happened. It's sad because it's a beautiful building. It really was. I think it's grade 2 listed, so they can't knock it down. So don't know what they're doing. It's weird.
That's curious. I mean, there's a weird thing about you know, I mean, I watch a couple of videos on YouTube about, you know, haunted. A lot of it bollocks and scams, and you know, people trying to make a bit of money. But there's always an abandoned hospital or an abandoned school. It's like, well, why are they still there? Why are they still standing? Because a lot of these places, I mean, they've got the creep vibe, but I mean, you know, they've been left to go to ruin. So of course, it's going to have the creepy vibe to go with it. I mean, we used to have a notorious hospital where I used to live. It's a place called Hennington Hospital. I mean, it's housing estate now. They've completely, it's gone. You know, the foundations are gone. But I only ever went there to have a walk through the you know, the foundations that were left. It was a bit eerie, but there's nothing. You know, I didn't see anything. There was nothing untoward, but it definitely had a bit of an atmosphere. But I don't know, hospitals and schools. I mean, they've got the creep factor anyway. It's the same as
they have.
Well, the next ones to that. In fact, I would say that the king of creepy places, or the you know, the top of the creep factor is castles. You know, old stately homes, castles, cathedrals, and churches. In fact, I think churches are often a lot more creepy than cathedrals and castles put together, actually. But you know, the hotels as well. I mean, obviously, you know, some of the hotels used to be old stately homes, and so if you imagine that they've got a lot of hereditary, you know, a lot of generations there that will have go way back into the past, and so I don't know, it's strange.
Well,
I mean,
there's another thing. There's ghost sounds and ghost. For example, there was a battle, I think, in the English Civil War in Oxfordshire, and people often hear the sound of battle going on from that battle. I don't know. Edge Hill, is Edge Hill in Oxfordshire? I don't know.
There's a place called Etchelhampton, which I believe was a civil war, something to do with civil war.
Might have been.
Because the king actually, the king lived here. The king had to hide out here during the interregnum, or during the time before the interregnum, before he was killed. Yeah.
But there was also during World War II, I think it's August 1942. There was what's called the Dieppe raid. And what that was is it was a precursor of D-Day, and it was a big mistake. It went wrong, and a lot of Canadians, many Canadians on this Dieppe raid, got killed. And they tried to make out, the authorities, that it was just a test exercise and this, that, and the other. But the Germans were in on it. They knew, and they were pretty good at. We're always hearing about how we cracked the code of the Germans. Well, they were bloody good at cracking our codes as well. So it goes both ways. And in 1952, this is quite famous. People in Dieppe woke up to the sound of gunfire. Really loud gunfire and machine guns and things like that. And it was the sound of the battle playing back 10 years afterwards on that day in August 1952, 10 years after what had happened in 1942.
On the same date, exactly 10 years later.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, is it caused by the people's memories and their mental ability to create like tulpas type sounds and manifestations? Because these, our minds can sometimes create physical things. And I wanted to just bring up, because I know I came into this conversation a bit late because I had to nip out, but you mentioned hospitals. A lot of people ask me, they say, well, you were a hospital porter for 23 years. Did you ever see a ghost in your hospital? And the answer is no, I didn't in all that time. But I heard stories of other people encountering these things. And you mentioned hospital castles, Nathan. You mentioned the hospitals, castles, schools. Yeah. One of the reasons it could be that hospitals in particular are often haunted is because of the amount of pain and suffering and death that goes on there.
Trauma, yeah. This is what I was thinking with the battle as well. Some kind of trauma.
Battlefields as well, like you hear battlefields recreated, because ghosts are often associated with violent and unpleasant deaths. And of course, in a hospital, you're going to get a lot of those. Like there's some nice deaths and good. There's less, but death in particular will be focused around that particular location. And someone mentioned mental asylums, or Stephen mentioned mental asylums. People who are mentally disturbed, in particular, seem to attract this kind of phenomenon. Jerry Masinski. I always get those two mixed up.
Jerry Masinski, yes.
Yeah. He's done interviews about this, and he did a very good one with James Dellingpole recently. L.A. Marzulli is quite similar, but he's got a slightly different take on things. But no, Masinski was a psychiatrist, and he's
been on the show. He's been on the show.
Right. Oh, has he? Great. Well, you could tell the story if you like, Chris. But I mean,
that's okay. Carry on. That's okay.
One of the things I remember him saying was that he was always told by his superiors when he was a psychiatrist, never humor your patients with their fantasies, because he had to deal with a lot of schizophrenics. He was a specialist in schizophrenia. And he said, don't humor them with their fantasies, so they'll come out with all kinds of things. But never, just remember, it's all not true. It's all rubbish. And when he started talking to these people, he actually broke that rule. And it's really strange, because after talking to them for a while, he got the distinct impression that what they were seeing was objectively real. Too many different patients who had no contact with each other previously were coming out with the same kinds of fantasies. This is similar. Is
there like a theme to it, or is it?
Yeah, it's an unpleasant and malevolent aspect of the people who have like ayahuasca experiences and things like that, and see the same entities, regardless of their racial, cultural, or geographic background. And he was even reports. Now, I know what I said earlier about people working in a paint shop. It's an old hospital joke, but he did have an experience himself in his office where he saw some strange, like almost like an electrical discharge near a waste paper basket. And I can't remember the details of it, but he gathered that these people were experiencing. He said they were experiencing real, genuine, malevolent forces from beyond this world, that they were influencing them. There's even, I don't want to exonerate people who do bad things, and it's not my intention, but if you listen to some people, especially some of the worst criminals of all, the people who really make us shudder and think and recoil, some of the things they say when you interview them, it's like, it's not that they didn't do anything wrong, or they didn't make the decision to do something bad, but once they made that decision to do a terrible thing, it's almost like someone takes over the controls. And a perfect example is David Copeland. He was the London nail bomber. In 1999, he carried out a nail bombing campaign in several places. He blew up a pub. He detonated a bomb in a street. and killed about 4 people, injured loads more. He describes when he came up. He didn't make excuses and say, "Well, they made me do it. The demons made me do it," and thing like that. He says, "I decided I was going to do this thing. When I did, I almost felt like something was pushing me along, and I couldn't stop." Hey, Maureen, how you doing? I see Maureen. Someone was pushing me along.
Hello, Maureen.
Someone else is behind the wheel now. Someone else is behind the wheel, and it's really creepy listening to, because they could see there was a recorded interview of David Copeland shortly after his conviction, and when he admitted everything. There's other examples as well: serial killers, people who commit genocides, and terrorists like Copeland. There's different examples I could call it. And again, we see this doesn't exonerate us. It doesn't make us. It doesn't remove accountability from people. But it is saying to us that once we make the decision, there's someone else. Once we make the decision to do something bad, someone from out there will come along and encourage us, keep us going on that path.
Well, it's strange, because have you ever seen these interviews with my mad Frankie Fraser? Now, when you hear him talking, he did some pretty awful things. And there's one thing that made me laugh with what he said. He said, "I was a very bad crook." He said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, because I got caught." And I creased up with that. But you think, he sounds a nice bloke. He sounds a very nice. But he came over that way. But the amount of robberies and terrible things he did. I mean, he was a nut. He's a bloody fruitcake. He really was. Psychotic in many ways, I would think, allegedly. That's right. I don't want his gang after me. But no, I mean, they're probably on their Zimmer frames.
The Zimmer wars have begun anyway.
Yeah. But the thing is, these psychopaths and people like that, they are generally two personalities. I mean, I've worked with psychopaths, one married into my family. And if you used to meet this one that married into my family, you think, what a very nice person. What an incredible person. And then there'll be the complete opposite when they're.
So I spoke to somebody who refers to this as the switch.
Right.
As if, you're talking to somebody, and if it's almost like you say a trigger word or a catchword, and then suddenly bang, it's like something else is activated in there. I mean, the context was where she was talking about, NPCs and, basically kind of like Agent Smith-esque type of thing. But at the same time, I mean, with again, but if we look at this, it's trauma based, isn't it? A lot of it, even with psychopaths. Well, not necessarily psychopaths, but sociopaths. I mean, it can be often trauma based. When you were saying there about asylum inpatients, things like that, it's like, well, are they mentally ill, or have they opened the door of some kind, and it's or maybe they're just naturally open to it, right?
That's just for another show. This is brilliant, because sorry, I don't mean to call across.
I'm fascinated by the whole thing.
I do believe in demons. I do believe demons exist, because I've seen. I believe I've seen people demonically possessed, and it ain't funny, and it's something that terrifies me. I am terrified.
You know about the switch? Sorry, Nathan, you go on.
No. Ask me the question, because we can come back to this. Because
you mentioned the idea that the switch is there's two people in one. Now, and Chris, you mentioned this. The guy I know who abused me when I was a child, he wasn't some like dark corner dwelling jerk everyone turned away from. This was a sophisticated man. He was a school teacher. He was charming. He was social. He was very social when he wanted to be. He could be very social, he was calm. He had this soft voice, and he was intelligent. And he was very popular with women. He was a good-looking guy, handsome, sophisticated, suave, and he had loads of girlfriends. He eventually one of them was my mother. I don't want to go there, but one of them was my mother. But I'm pretty certain. I'm not 100%, but my dad won't talk about it. But I think it's pretty certain. He was like this incredibly genial man. But he was when he could get away with it, he was really a disgusting, emotionally and physically abusive man. He was mentally, he was a controlling, manipulative, person who could hypnotize people. He hypnotized my parents into allowing him to, and then he used to he used to beat me physically and in front of other people, even in front of my relatives, in front of my parents and their friends. He used to literally beat me when I was like 8 to 10 years old. There was nothing I could do about it. I was just a little kid, and I've never forgotten it though. I've never forgotten how it made me feel. Not just what he did, but what he did to my parents to prevent them from helping me, to prevent them from defending me.
They are hypnotic. They can hypnotize.
Yeah,
They are hypnotists.
That being said, my parents were very weak people. I mean, my mother was like quite messed up, and my father was extremely, and he is. I've got to say, he's a very feeble individual. And I still have problems with him because of that. He's very easily influenced by others, but because my dad's still alive. I mean, he's 76 now, but he's still alive. But anyway, Chris, carry on, because I was just saying that's the idea, because he could be one thing or the other when he needed to be.
Well, just before Chris got to that, because can I ask you, was he part of any fraternities or any?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. But he was a person I would say I would call middle class. Not the kind of person, not the kind of person that my
everyone knows the middle classes are evil, mate. I mean, it's,
oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not an inverted snob. I'm just, but he was what I would call, he was a sophisticated socialite. I would say. I say he was a socialite. He ran a kind of. I mean, I describe it when I'm feeling cynical. I would describe it as a cult. But he had a circle of, he had a wide circle of friends, to coin a phrase, and he was always the dominant figure in that circle. He was the dominant individual.
I think I can speak for Chris on this occasion and say that we know the type. I mean, I've had not to that degree, but I've certainly had experiences with people like that. And the way I would describe them is, I mean, you mentioned cult personalities, and again, cults and psychopaths, they go together. But it's very curious how he was, cool, calm, collected, and then suddenly could switch person. It's almost, I mean, is there something else in there, or are they just cold, horrible people that do this?
I mean, I mean, when in terms of people, clearly this person his personality was so different to mine. I can hardly believe he's the same species at a consciousness level. Yet they have the ability to disguise themselves, and very often. I think one of the red flags, if you meet someone who's a little bit too perfect. I mean, the perfect example is the Patrick Bateman character in Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho. It was made into a very famous film, but the book is actually got the same sort of plot, but it's far more extreme in terms of the violence and everything.
Right.
But that character is someone who is like everything about him is just so perfect. But there's no individuality to him. He's almost like a cardboard cutout of your perfect person. He's handsome, young, sophisticated, etc., rich, successful, etc., etc. But of course, he's the ultimate anti-hero. He's a complete monster. He's a demonic individual who does evil for the sake of its own sake, because he enjoys doing evil things.
Well, it's disconcerting when you watch it. It's very, it's definitely got a feeling of discomfort with it. And,
but even he says himself, "This is not me. This Patrick Bateman is not me. The real me is someone inside." And at the time, he pulls off like his beauty treatment mask at the same time as he's saying these words in the film. And it's an extremely sinister, frightening moment in that particular thing. You realise this is not him. Is the real self. The Patrick Bateman is like this. It's a mask he wears. It's his persona. And I think a lot of psychopaths do that. They know how they're very conscious of social mores, and they can fit in. They know how to put on an act to fit in.
Oh, it's quite because I believe that psychopaths have the ability to hypnotize masses, and narcissists can as well. And what happens?
I would disagree with narcissism a bit, but definitely psychopaths and sociopaths. Yeah, they do.
They do. They are brilliant at it, and I've worked in offices where you'd have people that wouldn't say boot to a goose, really nice people, and a psychopath would be a senior person that comes in, and suddenly everybody's suspicious of everybody else because they always work on suspicion. So where you would trust people, oh no, nobody trusts anybody, and these people would turn into absolute monsters to please the psychopath, and it's like this sort of pyramid all groveling up towards the psychopath. And it's like the old, there's an Egyptian joke apparently, and that is, and I can say this being English, how do you get 40 Englishmen into a mini car? You make one a foreman, the rest will crawl up his arse.
Yeah, it's really it's funny you should say that, but among sort of like NPC like people, or people who have no real drive of their own or willpower of their own, they will gravitate towards the leader, to whoever shows a leadership position. I mean, my dad's like this. I mean, this is one of the reasons he was so easily controlled by this. I call him Centaur. I won't mention his real name, but one thing that psychopaths are very, very conscious of, they don't understand empathy. They don't understand human emotion, but they are very sensitive to power plays and hierarchy. They understand where the pecking orders very well, and they work very hard to get as high as possible within any social hierarchy, so they have control over others. That's what they do. So it's understandable. I mean, this guy being a school teacher, Centaur, he would have had. He's probably I wasn't the only child he was mistreating, I'm sure. Probably a lot of families wouldn't let them near him. I mean, funny enough, he did leave us eventually. He did get out of our lives, but it was only when I turned up. This was much later, when my daughter was about 6 years old. I turned up at my dad's house, and he was sitting there, and I said, "I'm not bringing my daughter into this house with that man there," and I walked out.
Good for you.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in fact, I insisted this guy leave as well at the time. As well, and he hasn't been back since, because he suddenly realised his game was up. This wasn't going to work for another generation. What psychopaths will do in that situation is they'll simply move on to another pasture where there is more prey. There is more easier prey. You know.
They do always seem to be, climbing a ladder of some sort. They want to control the situation. They want to control. Again, the guy that I knew was part of a let's say, secret society, and to say that he liked his little sphere of control, he liked to do little side projects that also gave him additional influence and control. You couldn't ever disagree with him at all. You even when you did agree with him, there was always this. And again, we know people like this is on top of that, but you could never win. And if you stood up to him, that's when the monster really came out to play. He would find the most convenient moment to put you on the spot, embarrass you, or make threaten you, make you feel intimidated. And he went to town on it because he knew what he was doing. He was teaching you a lesson. Don't ever question me again, kind of thing. And it's again, I know a fair few of these, unfortunately. But Ben, it sounds like you've had a right traumatic experience with that. Like, I mean, it's
it's been a very formative in my life, definitely. Yes.
When I was a child, I was threatened that if I said anything about the way I was being treated, that I'd be haunted from beyond the grave. Imagine being told that when you're a child. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Kids really believe this sort of thing, and they really.
And it was about 10. That's right. And it was 10 years after that person died that I opened up, but I kept stum about it, But the thing is that I actually think psychopaths carry their group of demons with them, and these demons go out and infect people. I really do believe that, because
almost like it's again toxoplasmosis comes to mind again for some reason, but it's like it's reaching out and looking for victims to pull into them and feed off, almost, isn't it?
That's right. They feed off, and they love fear, stress, and commotion. Because then Benjamin Netanyahu is a typical example. Stress going on, but they can rise above it as if they are the pinnacle of calmness and, shall we say, fair play. But they've created the problem. And that's what they do. Very clever at it. Yeah. And you can see that happening in world politics. You can see it happening on all different levels. And really, I know we could go into psychopaths now. This is my pet subject. I actually do believe that the system is run by and created by them for them. Because if you're Mr. Nice Guy, you won't get anywhere in politics.
Well, you know
Seriously.
the old saying that nice guys finish last. I've got the alternate version of that, which is nice guys don't finish because they're just constantly trodden on. I mean, you know, I like to think that we're decent because people say, you know, oh, you're a nice guy. No, don't ever call me that. I'm not. I just try to be decent. But there's a limit there. But yeah, nice guys don't finish; they just get trodden on, and it's usually it's psychopath prey, isn't it? It's a meal.
Oh yes,
and again,
and I'll tell you something else. Once you've been not necessarily by a psychopath, but once you've had a lot of sort of abuse, you're continuously apologizing all the time.
Yeah.
And you find in adult life, if you're in a sticky situation where somebody's having a go at you, you just go into auto apologic mode, apologize it because you realise from a childhood that if you apologised, you got out of the situation quicker. So you just apologised all the time, and it was just nothing. It's just meaningless words. You say, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," and then just keep saying, "I'm sorry" all the time. But it's meaningless.
Sad, yeah, it's sad when you see people in that position. I mean, if you're lucky, if you are a person like that, or if you're lucky, they get out of your life. I mean, I suppose, would I call myself a nice guy? I suppose I am. I wouldn't say I'm weak. No,
I wouldn't say you're weak either. I mean, when I say nice guy, like genuinely decent, trying to put good into the world. But you know, I mean, even that's considered a weakness, isn't it? So.
But it just takes us back to what we were saying earlier, because I mean, I think to myself, well, what if I am a nice guy, and I suppose I am, then I'm in a world where I'm really at a 90-degree angle to everyone else. I'm completely out of my place. I'm in an alien world where I don't fit in, because this is if you are a psychopath. I mean, psychopaths generally have quite easy lives. I mean, sure,
psychopaths have equals ease, doesn't it? It's like they don't have any guilt, remorse, or anything like that. It doesn't hold them back.
And they often become very successful. And if you are like a bad person, or worse, okay, at best if you are a moral coward, like my father, because my father's certainly not evil. In fact, he can be quite. I think he's quite genuinely sincere, but he's very weak. If you are a moral coward, then at best, and worst, like generally malevolent, you'll probably not have any problems in your life. Certainly, the authorities will leave you alone. You won't have any knocks on the door from the police or anything like that. You'll get your promotion at work. You'll get quite a good salary probably. You'll have plenty of people who will be your friends. By friends, I mean they may not necessarily have an affection for you, but they'll be happy to share your company.
Yeah.
But if you're a good person, what happens? It's like going uphill over stony ground. Everywhere you go, you have things blocked off to you. You certainly won't get a successful career. You won't. People will often despise you and shun you, because you will not bite your tongue over things that you know are wrong. Whereas a bad person or moral coward will. They'll just bite their tongue and say, "Oh well, I'll just go along to get along." Whereas the good person will go, "No, I'm not going to go along to get along. This is wrong. This is right." As a result, people will then, you do that, and people, it's like you've stolen their wallet or something. They'll get really angry with you. A lot of people get really angry with you, and you
become the victim in that sense because everyone's attacking you. And you think, well, all I'm doing is standing on the moral high ground, kind of thing, because I know that what's happening here is wrong, and then suddenly you're the bad guy, right? It's the attack's on you.
I mean, I'm lucky in that respect because I do have friends. I have people who respect me. Like you two guys are among the people I do trust and who accept me as I am and respect me.
Yeah, well, hey, Matt, I consider you a good friend. You are a good friend. So yeah.
I'm lucky. I've got that. But most of the people I know around me in my life here, that is my family, people I used to work with. Not now, but people I used to work with when I was a hospital porter. Most of them can't stand me. Most of them find me. It's not that I do anything bad to them, because I don't. It's just they find me irritating, and they find me abhorrent. Most of those people can't stand me.
How about that? Yeah. But let's face it. Sometimes, I mean, for example, something I can't understand is where you get a bully type person who's a psychopath or a narcissist. People try to kind of worship that person. They're trying to get on the best side of them all the time, and they will go against other people to be on the best side of the bully. And we've got 2 minutes to go on Soapbox Radio, by the way. So we're going to carry on YouTube, but I've got to sort of add this in because for people listening on Soapbox Radio, it's going to sort of end suddenly at exactly 10 o'clock. So I just thought I'd mention that. And by the way, should we have a quick look in chat again?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Because
But check me out. Sorry, Chris. Check me out. Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. That's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just had to do that.
Panwo. Yes,
yeah.
We got a good plug in. Come on, Panwo.
Panwo, HPANWO. Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
That's it. Because
you've got a YouTube channel as well, haven't you, Ben? You've got
yes. And what's that book again?
Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure.
Roswell Rising,
and its
yes.
sequels, yeah. So.
Also, an excellent book here. Here he is. Fake Awake by some geezer who's in the show tonight. It's Nathan, right? Or High Strangeness, and now that's life, but not as we know it. As said, apparently reincarnation is making a comeback. Reincarnation is making. Let's face it, nostalgia isn't what it used to be, is it? And,
you know Ken Dodd, the comedian Ken Dodd.
Yeah.
He hated the. He says I couldn't bear the thought of reincarnation because I'd hate to come back as a can of milk.
Ben, you took me. You took the award for worst joke.
I didn't get it first of all. I thought I'm kind of brilliant. Yeah. Reincarnation is really a thing. I used to be a wild dog, but now I'm a massive boar. I will see myself out. And sixth grade, who we won't say it's Steve.
Hello, Steve.
No, I won't say Steve. 101. That's interesting. 101 Dalmatians, isn't there? Room 101 is a very occult number, as in room 101, and 101. No, hang on. 10. Is it 101 or 111? I can't remember. Anyway, now what we got? I'll have to be a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm missing some of your comments out. It's because I'm a rude, ignorant git. So, but no, actually, I can't read the one because we ain't got time. So, by the way, good night to everybody on. I think they've gone actually on.
45 minutes too late.
And we can talk about that slot on Soapbox Radio. Albert Pike's letter. This is Snarnock from 1877, describing World War III. That's right, 3 World Wars, and these times was very accurate. That's right. He was a 33-degree Mason, wasn't he?
It's almost like he didn't know about it. He planned it. But there you go.
Yeah. And then we got Dan MC, Budgie Smugglers. Are we? I don't know. It was describing a plan rather than a prediction.
Yeah,
I think so. Right. That's what he said.
They planned to have 3 wars in the 20th century too. They got 2 of them. The third one is, I think it may be a bit late, but they're still trying to start it again, aren't they?
That's right.
Well,
now,
if you look at the sorry to interrupt there, mate. But if you look at the plan, it was against, let's say, again, trying to avoid YouTube algorithm police, the East and the West. But it was also pitting nihilists and atheists up against, let's say, Christians or theists or whatever. It seems that it's deliberately trying to cause friction between certain groups that are centered in the Middle East, perhaps. And let's just agree there that he did get the first 2 events bang on. And yeah, they do seem to be going hell for leather to get the third part of that particular plan.
That's right.
Yeah.
I hope they never succeed because I don't particularly like the outcome of that one. But
yeah.
Well, actually, Patrick's going to have to put his hands over his ears now because did you know in the First World War, America was last in. Second World War, America was last in. They're going to make bloody sure they're the first in on the Third World War. So there we go.
Yeah, cool.
We've got some catching up to do, right?
Yeah, got to catch up. So you can take your fingers out your ears now, Patrick. Now we've got here Stephen Trusick said, I've been trapped in my bedroom in the middle of the night when I was 15 years old. No door, just walls and windows. Oh, it sounds like a building I've just designed. Nobody's joking. It's in a radio interview I did last year on Enlightened Times podcast, YouTube. Well, check that out. That's excellent.
Yeah, I've listened to that show. I remember I've listened to the show. Yeah, I did.
That's life, but not as we know it. There's an old pub in my town, the Thunderton House,
Yeah.
that is said to be haunted by Bonnie Prince Charlie. He stayed over there while on the run, and there's a pub near, I think it's Datchworth, the outside of Stevenage. It's supposed to be haunted by the highwayman. What was his name now? The famous highwayman that
Not
was
Dick,
around.
Dick Turpin. Was he real?
Dick Turpin, yeah. Yeah, Dick
Was he a
Turpin.
real person? It wasn't just a story.
No, he's actually did exist apparently, and I think he got hung at Tyburn, didn't he? Now, this is Reconciliation. Evening, Patrick. Sorry, good afternoon, Patrick, from America. How do we donate to give Nathan a headset? He sounds terrible.
All right, okay. I wish we'd have known that earlier, because I could have tinkered around with some of the settings. I hope it's not that bad.
We're getting a little bit of feedback, and I think that so the thing is, I'll be very straight with you. I don't like wearing headphones because I had earwax problems. Because when I wore headphones a lot, I used to get a lot of earwax problems. Bunged up. Since I haven't worn the headphones, that's all gone. But trouble is with sound, as we're saying, we can't go on Soapbox Radio with sound, you know. So I have to stop wearing my headphones.
Well, I'll handle it. Well, I'll say handle it. I'll reply to that one. I didn't know that it was coming across poorly on the sound, so I do apologise if it's coming across.
Oh, I understand.
Badly. But I mean, you know, if you want to send me a couple of £1,000, I think, you know, just email me and.
Well, I might be able to go into that very expensive shop. Excuse me, showing off. Shall I raise the little finger? Hang on. Let's raise the little finger whilst I'm having a mug. Here we go. Was it pound? One goes to Poundland. I might get some decent pair of headphones for you from there. How's that? So,
I don't like headphones.
Empty mental asylums. Yeah, they are empty, aren't they? Because they had that care in the community. Then we got. Pardon me. Hi guys, it's Maureen and especially Nathan Lasias. Thank you for the books and gifts. They're fabulous.
You're very welcome.
Thanks,
Maureen.
mate. Thank you.
I second that. It's marvellous.
Yeah, I heard it. I got one as well. And
you're all very, very welcome. So I'm glad you all like it.
Thank you very much. And it was a big surprise when it came through. And you know, that was a lucky thing. I was in my neighbour's house, helping her out doing something, and I just went to the front of the porch where she's, and I heard them knocking on the door to deliver your parcel. And I opened the door and it's over here. My late father, that's life, but not as we know it. It says, my late father always said to me, it's not the dead you need to fear, it's the living. Yes. And and another one, that was it, burn the sage. Was that to get evil spirits out? I use salt. I actually put salt in four corners of somewhere. If I get something I think is a bit iffy, I'll put it near salt. That's my way.
Salt is often used as like as a cleanser, spiritual cleanser. Yeah. You put it on. You throw it over your shoulder. If you spill salt, you throw it over your shoulder to get rid of the devil on your shoulder and things like that. It's often used in. It has an occult power, apparently. Yeah.
Well,
look, they to use it for to put a perimeter around yourself with salt, because apparently the demons or ghosts, whatever it is that's trying to attack you, it can't cross salt barriers. Which is, depending on who you listen to, this is one of the reasons why they don't like seawater or things like that. I don't know if it's true, but it's interesting.
You should get a guy called Jerry on. I interviewed him last year. That's life, but not as we know it. Mind-blowing stuff. He was a psychiatric evaluator. Yes, he came on my show, and YouTube loved it so much they took it down.
Oh, but you must have missed. You must have missed that part of the show because we brought him up, didn't we? But is it on your Rumble channel?
I think it's on my BitChute channel.
On BitChute, right? I'd like to hear that because he's a fascinating chap. He really is.
I was with a lady as well, and she was a cured schizophrenic. And it was quite a show. Well, it was until they took it down. Now it says here, hang on, DJ Flip says, yes, as Ben said, Jerry was with a patient and and was it
It's supposed to be electrical.
crackling, went up the wall, across the ceiling, and ended up in a waste paper basket.
That's it, yeah.
Baby with a laser said a few years back, Horizon program, BBC Two, claimed as much as a third of people are psychos according to brain scans. I thought it was 10%. I know that he's a very nice person. There's a doctor in America who had a brain scan, and he made a joke of it. It turns out that a lot of and he was a psychopath. He didn't realize it. And he admitted, he said, if he upsets somebody, it doesn't bother him.
But this is where you get into the problems of diagnosis.
Really nice guy, really nice person.
See, John, I know we were having a bit of a go at John Ronson earlier, but he wrote a book called Psychopaths Test, which is actually very interesting because it discusses this idea about what is a psychopath, how do you diagnose a psychopath. You see, I've done several tests. I did an empathy test. It turns out I scored 15 on this empathy test, which means I'm hyper empathic, so I'm kind of the opposite to a psychopath. But there's another guy called Professor Kevin Dutton. He's actually a psychologist here at Oxford, and he has his own version of the psychopath test. And you score between 1 and 100 on this test. I scored 44 on this psychopath test that I did with him, which means I'm borderline. I'm very high on. There's no sort of like borderline or anything, but I did. 44 is actually quite a high score on his psychopath test. So, but that's so. These different tests by different psychologists are contradictory. I can't be both psychopathic and semi-psychopathic.
Well,
I'm certainly not psychopathic. I'm certainly not psychopathic.
I'm too far. I think I'm similar to you and both you and Nathan, in that I try to be a people pleaser, which is usually it ends to your downfall, and that is because of what we went through as a childhood. That's it. You're trying to please somebody. It's a very difficult. It muddles your brain up. It really does. But I'm hypersensitive. That is big trouble. You know.
I used to be like that. I'm not so much now, but I used to be when I was younger. I was a bit of a people pleaser, too much so. But I'm not now.
You can't bloody please people. That's why not you specifically, but people. They will always find fault. You're always going to get an asshole.
You can't please them.
Nathan, don't forget to plug our presentation night on the 10th of November at the Energy Enhancement Centre in Gosforth.
Right. Well, he's just done that for me, but yeah, we've got. Steve and I have got a presentation. It's a 6-hour presentation in Gosforth. The Energy Enhancement Centre is where it takes place. It's a nice little setting. I think you can get about 20 people in there. So I don't know how well you want me to plug it, mate, because I don't know if you've sold enough tickets or if you've sold out. But 6-hour presentation. We're going to go 50-50. So I can't remember what Steve's is on about, but sorry about that, mate. We're going to discuss natural law, morality, ethics, and things along that nature to see where things are going in society, why things are so bad, what's going wrong. And I can hear a little bit of feedback myself there, so I don't know what's. Again, apologies for the.
I think Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. We'll get Paul English on. He'll sort that sound out for you. He's brilliant with sound. He really is. He sorted all this out for me. And we got here Jojo Gizmo said quite a few of my teachers at school in the early 60s were violent thugs. Boy, in my school, especially the PE. Oh, don't start me off about PE teachers. PE teachers, the headmaster. I detest the game rugby because I was forced to. I would not play rugby. I was forced to go on the rugby field whilst people spat at me and kicked me and booted me because I've got no interest in sport and I'm just not sporty. But the kids that look sporty, as I did, got worse bullying than the kids that were fat. That was the thing. But and DJ Flip said psychopaths will accuse others of what they do. Yes, they do it all the time.
They do. They project. They're very good. They do it deliberately because on the subject of PE teachers,
yes. Sorry,
they have a bit of a reputation. I mean, I had one called Mr. Betton, and I can give you his name because there's no way he's still alive because he'd be over 100 if he was still alive today. But he was just like that drill instructor in his Full Metal Jacket. You know, he was just like that guy. He used to, we'd be lined up and he'd walk up and down shouting at us and calling us names and things like that, and having a go at us because we weren't good at this, that, or the other, you know. But I look back at him now and I think it's quite funny. But at the time, I was shit scared of him when I was a kid. I really was.
Yeah. And
a bit of a
DJ Flip said, yes, being an HSP, that's it, HSP, highly sensitive person, is a pain. It does have its advantages, though. That's what I am too. Not many. No, I think we're all three of us are HSP, highly sensitive people. And that was it. Jenny Lynn, DJ Flip, Jerry's friend Chris mentioned, very good show that was. Well, it was before YouTube took it down.
What did they take it down for? What was their justification for taking it down?
I think Jerry went on a little bit about the big I think that sums it up. I won't say.
No worries. No problem. It's all right.
I think you get the drift. He didn't mention the people that provide the.
Oh right, yeah.
Yes, I think I think we could all get the drift.
I've lost a couple of videos to that. I'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh no. That's life, but not as we know. It says, why did the Spanish psychopath only kill on trains? Because he had a locomotive.
I'm just going to try something.
Are you going jogging, Chris? The local joggers here wear those cans. No. I might go on my push bike.
Oh dear. Well, that's what we've.
I don't know whether that's showing up. That's the talk with sorry, I've been trying to figure out how to get that on the screen. Just to give Steve a shout out as well. The number of ignorance. So some more occult numerology talks from Steve there. So that's our talk that's coming up on the 10th. If anyone's interested,
brilliant.
I'm sure.
You can't see it very big. It's a bit small.
What is sorry?
The caption is a little bit small, I think. That's the trouble.
Yeah, I can't really do any. No, that's wrong. I'm messing up with it there. But there's the advert. So if anyone's interested in that, or if anyone would like to host us to do the talks, the presentations, as you know, means Steve and myself, we can come and present this. If anyone has a venue, get in touch with us and let us know what you think, and if you'd like to host us, that's please get in touch. But anyway, that's the best I can do for an advert at the minute, because I'm not exactly tech savvy with this stuff. So there you go.
Right, but before we go, that's good now. I like that. Before we go, where is it now? Lost it. Oh, here it is. Just looking at because this is changing all the time. This is the chart, and next week. What we got? We got next Sunday's an empty slot, but you do a show, don't you, on Sunday, Ben?
Well, I do, although I'm actually my radio station is actually off the air at the moment because I've had to cancel my Spreaker account because they're completely useless and they're stealing my money basically because their service is so poor. So I've cancelled my subscription. So I'm trying to find a new. I'm trying to find a new home for Panmo Radio right now. I might have found it.
Well, not on Rumble. It's free.
I'm going to try one of those. Yeah, I'm going to try Rumble Odyssey. It's got to have a download function. It's got to have a live stream capability. And,
download. It's Rumble Studio.
You could
look up Rumble Studio.
I'll either do. I think I'm looking at either Rumble or Odyssey right now, but I'm going to go onto one of those. And as you say, it's free, so I'm saving some money there because I was paying Spreaker £17 a bloody month. It's not cheap.
That where the thunder
well, considering they completely ruined the entire platform, with stupid redesigns and bugs and trying to abolish the download button, and then the final straw was they just said we're not going to allow you to stream off to do live shows off your current account, so you're going to have to upgrade. And I said no, so I cancelled. So yeah, they used to be a good platform.
Especially you're paying for it.
There used to be a good platform, and then they've just gone downhill. So I'm not going to have a moment spree here.
That's right.
But basically my show's off the air until I find a new home for it, and I'm working on that right now.
If you want any help on Rumble Studio, don't ask me because I'm just a beginner at it.
I'll find out. I'm looking around at various places, so I might be doing my show, maybe not. Oh, thanks, DJ. Thank you very much.
To Ben's books, and then we got Paul. Good evening, all. Hello, Paul. And now, what we're going to do so next week, Sunday the 3rd. Blimey, November already. November the 3rd. We could do a Guy Fawkes special. Never know.
Do we get reenactment privileges or something? Are we? I'm not getting for anything. I'm just asking a question.
We gotta be careful what we say, but it's I wouldn't.
Not far from me is where they made the gunpowder in Waltham Abbey. Powder mills. Still there. 4th of November, we've got Food Wars with the Bowler Hat Farmer. He's coming on the 4th of November. And then on the 11th, and then there's a round table. It's the monthly where all of us get round and have a chat with Steve, yourself, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all. That's Sunday, the 10th of November. And then on Monday, the 11th of November, She Bear is back on. The title of the show we haven't worked out yet, but she's coming back on. And then Survival Steve is coming on the 18th of November. So he'll be on Monday, on the Monday. And Deb will be back on the 25th of November. And I will be doing where is it now? I think it's on the 10th of November will be a remembrance special. And there's going to be a special guest on. And it's going to be because every year I do an alternative remembrance, not the official type one. And I can tell you a little bit about the guest. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of my father, who's passed on, and he may be speaking on behalf of his father, who fought on the Axis forces. And my father fought in the Allies forces. He was in the British Army. He was a conscript, and he always said he was a civilian pressed, ganged into military clothing. He always said that. So he didn't like the forces very much. And he always smelt a rat, what was going on. So it's going to be a very interesting show because we are the sons of people that were in the front line during World War II. So I'm going to be speaking on so if anybody wants to come, it's because it's on radio, we can have more than 3 people on. I can have up to 12. It gets a bit crowded with 12.
That's quite unique. That's going to be quite unique there, Chris, with the 2 sides as well. I should point out that I'm looking forward to the remembrance service this year at the Cenotaph because I know some of the veterans and the troops plan to turn their back on the Prime Minister when he lays his wreath.
I hope so.
Do that. I really do hope they do that because that'd be a wonderful thing. That'd be it's what he deserves. He really does deserve that.
I think he's a psychopath. I actually think Keir Starmer is a psychopath. He must be.
Doing that job. Totally. Yeah. He's straight chip off the old Blair block, I think.
But no, people say. I mean, I don't wear a copy. I never have worn a poppy. Nor did my father wear a poppy. So we're a little bit rebellious there. And I think that I could be plugging in my dad's book, but I'll wait until the 10th of November, because I think it can, be too many books to plug tonight. So that's why I've bang. But the thing is that it's going to be a very unusual show because we're on Rumble, so we can say a little bit more than we normally. And there should be about 3 or 4 of us who are sons of veterans, so that would be, and all a little bit rebellious. So that would be a very unusual show. But So there we go. People think, I wonder who this guest is. But as I say, his father fought on the Axis side, and my father always wanted to speak to a German veteran. And he was obviously English veteran, because he saw how awful war was, because he was in the front line for 6 years. So there we go. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Stay on, because you can do as we go off here. And as I'm waffling here, I'm trying to find Deb's outro, which I do every week, and think, oh, here, I found it. Whee! Got it quite quick. So thanks. Anything to say to our audience before leaving, Ben or Nathan or Ben?
Just to say thank you very much for listening, and I really hope you enjoy the show. And check me up at Hospital Porters Against the New World Order, HPANWO, and the book I've already plugged twice, so I'm going to do that a third time.
Fair enough. I was going to say, thanks for the comments as always. It's always good to see what people are saying and for tuning in. I know I'm getting to it, and I'm going to finish by saying buy our books. So, Fake Awake by Nathan Lucius. And Hapanwo, Ben Emlyn Jones, he's got a trilogy of books out there. Do us a favour and go and get yourself a copy of them. And if anyone really wants to help me out on the headphone sound front, feel free to send some donations my way. I'd be happy to receive. Not that I'm after your money or anything, but it'd be nice. There you go. Well, buy our books.
Or you could do it by buy me a coffee. Buy me a coffee.
I don't have one of those set up. So I mean, the only thing I could do at the minute is PayPal donations. At the minute,
PayPal. You do it by PayPal. And if anybody likes, and if people don't want me to crack the constipated vicar gag, please donate to the buy me a coffee, and I won't crack it. Okay, so that's a deal. All right. So. Anyway, whatever happens, thanks for joining us, and see you next Sunday, and obviously next Monday as well. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh, and good night.